Hello and welcome to the Global Unity Festival. Oh, so I can hear someone. Hello, gorgeous women, beautiful women here. Hello and welcome to the Global Unity Festival, the festival about creating global unity and experiencing inner peace and joy and increasing the well-being in yourself, most importantly, but also in society. It's a platform here for the conscious synchronized events which live stream, which are taking place today, not only here in the Asia Pacific region, but in waves 2 and 3 in the Europes and the Americas as well. And you can discover on this space many different hosts. And I'm about to introduce you to these two amazing women as well, that are here to bring about a conscious change in the global consciousness, a change to uplift the entire planet. This is the place where we celebrate global unity by experiencing inner peace and joy. And each and every person that I'm going to introduce you to in just a moment is here with that intention. And as we know, there can be many forms that hold the same attention. And each of these gorgeous women are here to bring their own piece of process, their own, we've got another gorgeous one here, their own magic to this space, to be able to not only allow you to have a think about what transformation is, and that's what this month's theme is, but also to experience a transformation through each and every person here and their soul magic and their soul essence. And so I would love to, wherever you're coming in from, I can see someone there, just let us know where you're coming in. I can see some beautiful comments, some hellos and love hearts here. Let us know where in the world you're coming from, because it's always beautiful to see where the touch points are along the globe. And so I'm going to introduce myself. My name's Rochelle Love Raku, and I am from Realign with Raku, and I help amazing women, mamas, move through transformation. And so this month is so dear to my heart. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to witness somebody moving through big things, through changing not only their way of seeing the world, but also their outlook and their joy in life. And I have the honor of being able to do that. Hello from Michigan, amazing user. And these women do too. They get to bring their magic, and their magic transforms the world. And so we invite you into this space of thinking into what transformation means for you. For me, it's every single moment, every single second is an opportunity for a transformation to take place. Every choice creates transformation. So I am super excited to co-create an intention here today with these amazing women who will all be coming live to you through Global Unity Festival, through the website, and also in Earth Elders and the Global Unity Festival Facebook page, and their own channels as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Ratnamurti, to introduce yourself first.
Okay. Kia ora, everybody. Oh, hello. Well, it's really hard to talk about oneself, but I'm really into transformation, but in a everyday life, like you were saying, Rochelle, with choices. I think that's really the real transformation, because our life, it's set out for us. And I know things are going to change to wreck our life path, as it does happen. But with everything that happens, we do have a choice. It's not a choice about to do this, not do that. It's really more a choice of attitude and coping. And I know this is hard, but I would say always look at what you can do so that you can feel empowered enough to make good choices. And as a healer, I have found it doesn't really matter if you make the wrong choices. What matters is our intent. the intent goes further really along the path than the choice does. So, who am I to think that I could say all this? Well, when I was quite young, I went to yoga. Didn't know what it was, but Mum said go. And Mum never gave me any advice. She gave me 3 bits of advice in my life. So when I finally got one, I went. And it was a spiritual journey. And this is where most of my knowledge started to come from. And I know everyone has their own knowledge and their own path for acquiring that knowledge. And through the yoga, I came to healing, and I really didn't want to do it. I thought that healers were off the planet, and a bit dingy. So there was a lot of humble pie to be eaten with becoming a healer. And to my surprise, I found out that I wasn't doing the healing at all. And I found this out the first time I did a healing, that it was the unseen beings, the guides and the guardians. It was them. I was just a medium. And as long as my intent to do the best I could with and allow this energy to flow through me, that was the best I could do. But along the way, you come to discover a lot of things. And I think my healing journey taught me so much about choices and the heart. I mean, like everyone else, I have lived at times with a heavy heart. Sometimes it goes on for years. It's just something you've got to put up with because you've got the situation and you've just got to do your best. But I'm so grateful. I still do the healing, of course. And I moved into Maori healing quite by accident. I actually wanted the spirituality. I got given the hard word the first time, turn up at the healing clinic. And I thought, well, what for? More humble pie? Lots of it. And I found my home. It was with the Maori culture. And I know I've only got about an 1/8 Maori in me, but to me, it's always been a big part. And again, I tell you, the healing is very heart-based. And I think I learned even more since about 2008, 2009. And I can't even describe my gratitude. It taught me that, it's not about nothing's ever about oneself. It's about all of us. And I hope sincerely that in my talk that I can give you a couple of things to do. One of them is actually really big. That if we can feel better about ourselves, it's much easier to cope with life. And that is an incredible transformation itself. And along the way, there are all of these things that people go through. Some of them are unbelievably horrible. I remember my mum used to say these sayings, which I didn't know was part of Maori culture. And I always roll my eyes. And one of them was, the wheel always turns full circle, and what comes around goes around. And all things must pass. And I found that they did. And keeping this in mind during difficult times, that's also a thing I think that helps us transform. We can know that at some stage it's going to end, and we can do our very, very best within those hard times. I mean, I look at the planet and I think, oh my God, we are so lucky down under. Just so lucky. We can do all these things because we're not being bombed or horrible things like that. We can do them. We're very lucky. So my talk's going to be on Earth Elders, if I don't botch it up, and which I have done before, of course. So I look forward to seeing you ladies again today.
Thank you, Ratnamurti, and we look forward to being able to go back and go through your process with you. So as you go and get ready to start your process, which is in 3 minutes time, in the Earth Elders Facebook group. If you're looking to find and I just want to thank you for bringing growth and transformation together, because it's such a big part of, and in my mind, they're synonymous. They go hand in hand, and it was a beautiful thing to bring that into this space. And we look forward to going back and being able to watch you. And if anyone is wanting to jump off now, and follow Ratnamurti to the Earth Elders group, where she'll be doing her process today. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your wisdom.
Thank you. I look forward to watching this after. Okay, I'll see you later, guys.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't know how to get Rochelle, if you wouldn't mind taking me out. I don't know how to do it. Yeah,
I certainly can. Beautiful. Gorgeous. So next up, I'm going to introduce the gorgeous Claudia Forward.
Hello. Okay, so I'm answering the question of what transformation is for me. Is that correct?
Yes, that'd be great. And just let everybody know a bit about who you are and the process that you're going to be doing today as well.
Okay. Who am I? I'm kind of whoever I want to be in the moment that I am it. So let's just go with that. So who I am is, there are many labels that I can use as to describe who I am, but I don't really care about any of those labels. I'll share some of them with you. I happen to be a female. I associate as a female. I have a husband who 22 years together in a few days. So I am kind of super excited about that. It's just amazing. And it continuously, actually, you know what? That's why I needed to say that. Transformation. Transformation is, in my relationship with my husband, the transformation that we have been through, moved through, and experienced is next level. Oh my gosh, like, he's a muggle, and he's a really great muggle. And we met each other both as muggles. I was always curious about this kind of spiritual stuff, and it's like, oh, is this all this energy sort of thing? And so I started to look more and more into that. I started going to yoga retreats. Like, this is about 15 years ago, to Bali, when the kids were young. Started doing that, but I came home and I was like, yes, I know so much more than you. You need to know all about the things that I know, Rod. My husband's name's Rod. Obviously, that went down. Like, it didn't go down. It didn't work. In fact, it bombed. But you see, here's the thing. The more I woke up to my own inner transformation, the more I said yes to me, to what I was here to bring forth, what I was here to experience in this world, in this now, the less I needed him to care anything about what I was doing. Even though I had, say, for example, I've got 2 rooms here where I do this spiritual stuff. And what's really quite fascinating, so this is after 22 years of being together, I can honestly say in the last 5 weeks, we have had, Rod's now doing breath work. He's done for 4 weeks, each and every day, half an hour of breath work. Rochelle, I don't know if I told you that part. Like, oh my gosh, like, seriously, Rochelle, do you have something to say about that?
It's very exciting. I just love it because it's getting to the space in the spiritual world is there's such a transformation that happens individually, and I love that it's kind of rippling out. And I think that's what I love the most about what is being created here in the Global Unity Festival, is that ripple of energy that gets to move out because of the way that, like, like the way Claudia's chosen to be, how that and consciously chosen to keep diving in and keep doing the things that light her up, which is probably why you see her in so much joy now, and then how that kind of ripples out. Especially because, you know, transformation is amazing like that. It does have an effect and inspires others to do it. And it's, I love that you called Rod a muggle, because it's like, I think that all the time about my husband, of like who he married to compared to where I am now, and what he must think sometimes. And it's about me feeling really in a beautiful space now. And I love that you brought that in. But I love, that's great. He's doing breath work.
It's like, so we had a sauna today, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take you through a process. So we're sitting in the sauna, sweating ourselves out. Like when you're sweating, like there's a lot of transformation going on inside, right? It's like it's actually almost activating some friction inside, and what actually needed to occur, we needed the friction to be activated inside of us, because what we were talking about is we were talking about our future and where we saw ourselves in 5 years' time. Now, we lead a really great life, and we really do. We have a wonderful life, and it's very easy to kind of just flow with it then. And unless you bring in some friction, it sometimes isn't going to actually, oh yeah, sometimes you just need to bring some friction in so that you actually get off your butt and go do the thing that you're meant to be doing, rather than sitting there going, no, I would really like to do such and such, and I'd like to do such and such. I've got this really great idea. But if you do diddly squat about it, who cares? It's just a cute thought you had once. And like, let's actually bring the transformation that you are experiencing inside and let the world see it. Now, your world might be your immediate world in the room that you're in on your own. That's totally okay. But it also might be walking down the street and saying hey to a neighbor who you haven't seen, and just striking up a conversation, and then realizing, oh my goodness, we have so much in common. I feel great after just speaking with you. It's so, yeah, so that was with the sauna. Now, the process that I'm going to take you through is where we look at our breath as being the chrysalis. So yes, I'm using all the metaphors about the butterfly because like it's fun, right? Like, and that's pretty well much the reason why I'm doing it like this, because it's fun and I like fun, and I like playing with ideas. I like playing with perceptions and stories, because see, when we attach a story to something, it wakes something up in us, and it means that we don't have to rely so much on our memory. So I want to take you through an experience. I will be taking you through an experience, and I'll be using some of these little beauties. See these? Selenite swords of light, as well as I'll be bringing in some star magic frequencies, where we will be tuning into our body as being the cocoon, our breath, the chrysalis, which is where the transformation and the transition is actually occurring, and our essence as the butterfly. Oh, didn't that feel good? Our essence. I'll do that again. Hang on, listen, do it again. Our essence is the butterfly. Doesn't it feel yummy?
I love that you also brought the butterfly, because that the term metamorphosis, like the butterfly, and it's such a big transformation. In thinking about the theme, like that was something that really came up for me, of that really big metamorphosis. And especially because for the butterfly, you know, there's so many different stages that are completely different. And it's like, it's actually one of the things I love most about the butterfly analogy is that for the butterfly to leave its cocoon, which is, you know, it's already that it has to kind of die to each part of itself to become this new version. And for the butterfly to leave the cocoon and actually become a butterfly, it needs to struggle in order for its wings to get enough strength for it to fly. And I feel like, especially in the work we do, I know Claudia, you're the same, and Margarita's going to introduce herself in a second, and she definitely is in this field of creating massive transformation for people in terms of their mindset and also their outlook on life, and actually their whole life flows from that into a massive transformation. But it's that looking at that struggle, we often see it as a bad thing, and the butterfly is a perfect example of how those moments where it feels like it's difficult, it feels like things are going and they're changing and they're shifting, is actually brings so much growth and brings so much magic. But it's like we get to also go through that process to get to this magnificent stage.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah. And it's interesting. I recently had COVID, came down with it, and it knocked me for 6. And the interesting thing, what I learned through it is actually, like, oh my gosh, it's gifted me so much. Like, I'm a wildly new person. I feel like my cells have been cleansed, have been rebirthed, and each of my cells have gone through the chrysalis and now are the butterfly. It's like everything got knocked out. But what I actually noticed and what I was able to drop into, and which I'd love to offer here, is soft, nourishing surrender. Why does surrender need to be so like, and like, I've got to surrender and let go? It's like this, it's like more tension comes in. Like often when we use the word, oh, just surrender and let it go, it's like, blah. What about soft, nourishing surrender? How can we bring more of that in? And how much would we be able to then transform if we allowed ourselves to drop in to the soft, nourishing aspects of surrender?
Yeah, I love that. It's funny, the analogy that comes to me as you're saying that is like we can build muscles. Funny analogy. But we can build muscles in the gym powerlifting, but you can also do it doing yoga and Pilates. So it's like I just, that was as you were talking. We don't have to always make it that raw energy to create massive shifts.
And especially with also what's going on energetically from the planets and things like that, there's a whole heap of stuff. And I'm not the expert on that, but I've had a look at the chart, had a look at a few things, and felt quite a number. Right now, there's a lot of harshness externally. So isn't this also then asking us to be more gentle with ourselves and nourishing and loving and kind and soft with ourselves?
Yeah.
Why not give that to ourselves?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you all right to stick around for a little while?
I am. So I'm going to in about 30 minutes. So yes, I'm in 30 minutes and I'll be in Earth Elders and also on my Facebook page. So
I'm so excited
to play.
And I'm going to ask Margarita to introduce herself, and then we can all have a chat together if you're able to stick around. So let me get her in the middle.
Hi there, everybody. Claudia, you are just such an amazing breath of fresh air. Your energy is just so contagious and beautiful. Absolutely adorable. So much joy and light emanating from you. So it's always a pleasure to be here with all the beautiful healers. I'm, what am I? Just human, just doing human things, really. And I do transformation work and mindset work, and I'm a sound healer, so I sing light language sound healing. And coming into that gift was interesting. I resonate with what Claudia said about being kind of quite reticent about the whole woo-woo stuff. And when my gift started to come through about 13, 14 years ago, I was like, no, I'm not that. I'm not that weird woo-woo tick. I'm not being that weird woo-woo tick. I'm not doing channeling. That would just be too weird. So ran away from it for some time, and it just, of course, chased me down. So had to just give into it. And used to always ask, because as a channel and speaking this weird thing called light language, which I apologize. I just got smacked for calling it this weird thing called light language. I apologize. But because, of course, I am just the vessel. And the light language comes through me. It is brought through me. It's like speaking in tongues. I sing in tongues. And I just get to surrender to whatever entity, light being, is going to work through me at the time. And I, control freak, used to go, but what am I doing? Like, what am I saying? Like, what is this all about? And I just used to get the message, you don't even need to know. Just get out of the way and do the work. Get out of the way and do the work. That was not very satisfying to me. But with nothing else to go on, I just had to get out of the way and do the work. So, and the more I drop into that space and the whole allow and surrender thing, I agree with, and that whole thing of just let go. Just let go. Well, let what go? What do I have to let go? What do I have to let go? And we are conditioned to hold on really tight in every area of our life. We just hold on. And a lot of us are holding on for dear life just to get through the day. And I heard something that Kyle Cease said recently, actually, for anybody who follows Kyle Cease, he's quite lovely. Has a huge following on Facebook, does a lot of meditation and a lot of transformational teachings. And he said, stop making your transformation such a big deal. He said, yes, it is a big deal, but stop making it bigger than you. Just allow the transformation to happen. And what I feel and sense is that the transformation is happening. You don't have to make anything happen. The transformation is already happening. Your job is to drop into it and allow it. And a lot of people, that's discombobulating, because I love that word. I just love that I got to use it. And because it's discombobulating, because we have been conditioned to everything has to be hard work and a very left brain approach to success and creating bringing our dreams to life is you have to hustle and you have to drive, and it's very much a male dominated arena. And this is where we're conditioned to, it has to be hard. Well, actually, no, it really doesn't. You can make it hard, or you can relax, surrender, allow, lean in, let go, and just go with it. And it's going to be a bit weird, and it's going to challenge your conscious mind, because your conscious mind wants everything to be explained. It wants everything to make sense. It wants to fit everything into this box that says this is how it should look, and guarantee you it is not going to look that way. From one who discovered she channeled light language in the weirdest sort of experience 12 to 13 years ago, like, your transformation is not going to look like how you expect it to look. So stay curious. Allow yourself to be pleasantly surprised and allow it to be a graceful transition, because it's already happening. You just have to lean into it, allow it to happen, and stop fighting it. So you're bigger than it. You're bigger than any of it. And if you make it bigger than you, then that's when it gets, well, you make it like this thing that you have to do. And it's not. It's becoming more of who you truly are. It's your remembering process. It's you coming back to spirit, back to your connection. Where you're transforming into is actually just a letting go of everything that you have been conditioned you think you are, which you are not. So the transformation is just letting go of what you're not anyway. It's not actually becoming something you're not. It's becoming more of who you truly are. So it's just letting go of all the things that you've picked up that said the labels and the idealisms that we're sold of who we are and who we're meant to be and what we're meant to do, and just letting all of that go. And I'm noticing that as I decide and focus on letting go of all the 3D stuff that doesn't serve me, because we are transforming and transitioning into the fifth dimensional paradigm. And as I just go, what am I hanging on to in my life that is still in the third dimensional realm that does not serve me? And when I recognize it and just go, I'm just letting that go. So I'm going to do. So I'm just letting that go. And it's actually really easy. It's a lot easier than it used to be, or at least I'm finding right now it's a lot easier than it used to be. So, yeah. So, I mean, my process, which starts at 1:30 Brisbane time, so in a while, is basically light language sound healing. And it's relaxing, allowing, leaning in, letting go, and allowing the light and the activation codes that come through in the light language to assist you in transitioning into the next best version of you and becoming more aligned with spirit. So, and it doesn't have to be this really big, hard thing. It just is. So I hope that helps some people with what we're doing right here. And I'm just really honored to be on this journey.
It's such a beautiful honor to be able to share the space with you and everything you're creating. I'm going to shift the screen so we're all on kind of together. Beautiful. Sorry about that. And what I loved hearing, Margarita, in your share, and I feel like this is my job, and part of what I do is actually, it's more about dropping the resistance. It's happening already. And for me, the transformation for myself and like getting to where I am now, into a place where I'm so comfortable with myself. I'm helping others discover more of who they are and come back to their own magic. And for me to get to this space, it's really been more about dropping the resistance, recognizing when the resistance is there again and again, and dropping it to be able to do the transform. So I loved your analogy of, it's already happening. And especially, I'm sure we can all testify and have great stories around this, in that it is happening all the time anyway. And it feels like if you don't catch the lesson at the first time, it's just going to get bigger and bigger until you catch that lesson. But it's already being done. And I love that you really spoke into that, because it's such a big part of transformation. And I feel like when you were talking into it, very much like the birthing process is like, it's happening. That was one of the biggest things around birth. It was like, whether I resist it or not, whether I am like, I'm like, I don't want to do it, wherever my mindset was at, it was happening. My body was going to do it. Like it's going to happen. And I feel like that's a beautiful thing to talk into around transformation, and how it's already shifting. The world around us is shifting. Our internal self is shifting all the time. And it's more about surrendering, as Claudia was talking into, and finding those places that create resistance, as you were just speaking into, Margarita, about, finding those things that don't serve, which in my mind are the things that create the resistance to where you want to go, and that joy space. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the hardest thing of this whole journey is the awareness, just the awareness that you were talking about, and the recognition. So being present in the now enough in your life to bear witness to your habits and the rituals that you go through each day, and being present enough to be able to come in and go, wow, I've never noticed that I did that, or I've just done that really unconsciously. Is that serving me? And it's not being fully present all the time. Like, I think some people can do it. certainly I'm still in the process. But the more I practice being present in them now, the more I'm witnessing the conversations that I'm having, and then sometimes the things that come out of my mouth and go, whoa, okay, that's something that I've just recognized that I either don't like about myself, or something that's no longer serving me, or something that I can unpack. I love that word, unpack, and go, well, where is that coming from? And is that mine? Because so often our conditioning, more often than not, our way of being is actually not our way of being. It's come from somebody else, somewhere else, something else, some other authority that we've had in our lives as we've traversed this human journey. And yes, so coming back to more of who we truly are and building that presence. And I think that's the toughest thing of all in this whole journey, is as soon as you are more present, the transformation is easy. The letting go is easy. When you're present and going, wow, that no longer serves me, I'm letting that go, and you're releasing your emotional attachment to that stuff, then the process of the transformation, at least I've found, has gotten easier and easier and easier, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, that stuff so has to go. I'm just letting that go. So yeah, that's at least been my experience.
Yeah. Claudia, I know you have an amazing technique that you teach people, and you've been doing it for years and years, about bringing people back to the present. And I'm wondering if you can guess what I'm referring to straight away.
Was that me?
Yes. I was just saying, you have a technique to teach people all the time about being present. And I actually have used it a lot. And it's funny, I jumped in the car. Claudia will explain it in a second. And it's all around just bringing awareness. Actually, you explain it, and then I'll tell the story of your tea bag trick you teach people.
This is one of my favorites. Honestly, it's tried, it's true, it's easy. I had people all around corporate banking doing this for years, and they still do this and have been doing it for years. And it's the simplest, the easiest way to become present and come back into your body. And so it's as simple as, when you make yourself a cup of tea, just pretend this is a cup of tea, but it's a water. It's water. But we can even do it with that. When you make a cup of tea and you're dangling the tea bag, dangle it to the point where you feel the heat here. That's it. So just even now, just take one moment and just pretend you've got a tea in your hand, and feel the sensation of even the slow up and down, and then feel the heat there. I mean, how often have you done that, but done that with awareness? You see, it doesn't just stop there. It's like you also do the mountain pose, like in yoga, where you build your body up from the feet up. So feet hip width apart. Stand there. And that's all you do. No looking at the phone, no wondering, oh, what am I going to do next? Let me quickly pour this because I've got to go over there, and then I'm going to butter the toast over here. I'm going to fill the kettle up then after I do that, and then I've got to do this. Sorry, what was that you wanted, love? No, not that. That. And honestly, so if you drink coffee, stir until you feel the heat there. If you don't have sugar, so what? Stir. Stir until you feel the heat there. Honestly, if you just simply did that 5 times a day for 2 minutes, 2 minutes to pace, that's it. For me, that is way more of value than doing like a half-hour meditation every 3 days. Why? Because you're resetting yourself, becoming present. Like what Margarita was just saying, being present. The more present, the more aware we are. And so what it does is it stops your day from spiraling. just by doing 2 minutes. Because see, the thing is, if you just do it in the morning, and then it's like things happen in the day. And like, I know for me, when I was in corporate, I worked in corporate for 22 years, and it's just like, it was just like meeting after 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 meeting. I am just exhausted. However, between each meeting, do this simple process, and you're resetting your energetic system. And it's so simple. It's a tea bag dangle. That's it. It's so simple.
It's funny how I noticed even with your demonstration of teabag dangle how how fast I do that process in comparison when you're like just dangling. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, okay, next thing. Which is beautiful to recognize. And it's funny, the reason the reason it came into my mind is I got in the car and I put my mug on the front while I was doing my seatbelt and getting everyone in the car steamed up, and I thought of you. It's like being really present to the moment. What I love the most, and because especially because this is the work that I love doing with people, is like you're talking into the sensations, and I feel like part of the reason why I love that so much is that is a beautiful way to come back to yourself and see where you're at. In moments of transformation, like when we're going through things, sometimes it's the nervous system can be like, what the hell is going on? Especially if we have a lot associated with change and difference and what, you know, when we're moving through things and things are uncertain, our nervous system can be really up and alert and in that fight flight. And so often I'm talking to clients about coming back to your nervous system, for coming back, what are the actual sensations in the body that's present, to get them to come back into themselves. Because just like what you were talking about, Claudia, where, you know, there's all these million things going on, that's when we're living up in our head. And that's when we're in this chatter. And Margarita, you were talking about it as well. Up here is like where our conditioning is as well. But our body never lies. Our body tells us exactly where we are. And when we use our body as a beautiful tool to aid us, it is a great indicator. And coming back to that sensation, like, you know, even with the tea bag, or even when you pick up your glass of water, like actually feeling the sensation of it. And when you swallow it, like feeling the sensation of it is really a beautiful tool to bring back to the presence, because our physical reality is like where we are right now, right? But so often in our brains, we're like in the past or in the future or in the to-do list. And so I love that you've just mentioned that, because the sensation piece is a huge part of what I do in bringing people back into who they are and actually listening to themselves. Because I feel a lot of the time we have been so conditioned of all these things that we should be doing that when we're not really inside ourselves.
Absolutely. And can I also add something that's also then a little bit counterintuitive?
Yeah.
I also believe we should ignore everything that we say or that we're thinking. Because if we can ignore everything that we're thinking, like, wow, we'd be so much freer, because we wouldn't listen to those little pesky little la 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 chats. And here's the other reason why. Because, like, I know for me, at any point in time in my past, who I am now, I know more than that person there. And I look at what I thought back then, I go, oh, that's cute. That's so cute. Which means that one day, even me saying this right now, in a new version of myself in the future, I'm going to go, oh, that's so cute. So if we just came in and go, you know what, let's just not believe anything that I've got to say, anything that I'm thinking, ignore it all, and then I'll be fine. And I'll let myself off the hook.
Yeah.
Just
It's
another way
amazing.
to look at it.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, like how freeing if you decide not to follow the thoughts. Because that's a lot of the time the resistance we're talking into earlier, like the resistance to the transformation is so much there in the thoughts. It's a beautiful way to look at it. And it's so interesting. It's that I quite enjoy like choosing the thought. Like if a thought's coming through and in my body, it's not feeling good. It's a space for me to recognize that, hey, the thought that I'm thinking is not aligning with who I am. Because if it was aligning with who I am, it would feel good to be thinking it. Because who I am is somebody who feels good, and that's my choice, right? So I've chosen that. So when it's not, I'm like, I get to have a look at these things. I get to make a transformation. I get to actually do something about it rather than being sitting in that sensation, in that feeling.
Absolutely, yes. Choosing the thought that, yeah. And there's transformation in that too, because if we're so used to following this certain way, this thought, if we just keep going that way, we're still going to go that way. If we just choose another thought, we can actually find that we're completely changing the direction of where we're going and where we were heading. And yeah, you never know what could come up.
That's right. And Claudia, I recognize that your process is going to be starting in about 12 minutes time in the Earth
Yes.
Elders group and on your Facebook page. So people can find
Yes.
you on Facebook under Claudia Forward. Her name's down on the bottom of the screen if you're looking for where to find her or the spelling of how to find her. And I'd love you to just let us know the chrysalis of the breath. If anyone's tuning in right now, what are they looking forward to?
An experience. You will feel the transformation coming from inside of you. You will be creating it based off the frequency and the suggestions and what comes through in that. Because if you feel the transformation within you, that's all that's needed. And then you can start believing that it's possible for you. So this is an experience. You will feel different through it. You will feel something. You will sense something. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm excited.
Yes. So I'm excited to let you go and get ready for the process. And I'm going to invite anybody who is wanting to go and follow Claudia into the Earth Elders space so that you can be truly transformed by it all. So thank you, Claudia, for being here.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'll see you both soon. Mwah. Bye.
Take care. Beautiful.
Fabulous. Delightful soul.
Right. She's absolutely gorgeous. I'm had the joy of knowing Claudia for a few years now, and she's always been a very bright light. And I just want to let everybody know who's watching that you can go to the Global Unity Festival website. The details are right here down the bottom, and go to events, and on that page you'll be able to see the different events that are happening. Claudia's will be starting in 10 minutes from now, and you can follow the link on the Global Unity Festival page under events, and also in the Earth Elders Facebook group, and on her personal page. So if she is an energy that you really felt connected to, please reach out to her. The same with Margarita and Ratnamurti or myself. If there's something that's said that kind of really sits with you, then please go and reach out to all of us. We are all amazing humans who actually really love human connection. so please actually reach out. Often I find people are like, oh, I didn't know what to say. Just say hi. And say, I saw you on this, and say hi. And if there's something that resonated, tell them, because it's a beautiful way to acknowledge the person who you've spoken to, but also create those connections, create that soul family. If you're here in this space and you're drawn to this kind of work, then I know from my own personal experience, often in my world, there wasn't people around me who spoke light language or saw people who weren't actually in this real realm. Like it was Margarita was talking into it before. It's like it was a real transformation for myself personally to go from, I'm a very scientific brain. I come from a very scientific family. So having, and I'm a podiatrist, still practicing podiatrist, as well as a psychic medium and an energy healer and everything very woo. I run a course called Awakening the Woo. That's where I've got to now. But if it wasn't happening to me, I am the most skeptical spiritual person on the face of the planet. And I felt like when it was coming through, it was such a crazy experience to be in by yourself. And so that's why I'm encouraging you to reach out to create that soul family, because you get to be actually cherished, and those gifts cherished. And when they're first opening up, Margarita, I'm going to ask you for your experience around this as well. When that transformation is happening and they're first opening up, for myself personally, I was like, what the hell is going on? I think I'm going insane. I'm seeing things out the side, and like, I'll be like, is there someone else in the room? And I had no idea what was actually happening. And then even as they started to come stronger, there was like, no one was around me who could say like, oh, that's normal. Oh, how cool is that? Like, how amazing. which is why I do the work I do, is helping people actually realize that they have gifts and they're not going insane, because that's what it felt like for me as things were opening up. And so I think that's an important part to talk into about the transformation.
Absolutely. And I was just looking to my left because I'm surrounded by books, and there's a book called Am I Going Crazy? I think it's called something like Am I Going Crazy? Which talks about that. And my experience of all this was totally off the wall. I was fortunate to have people around me at the time, because I was waiting for the men in white coats to turn up and take me away. Yeah. I was terrified to tell anybody about what I was experiencing, including my own mother, because I came from a very Catholic background. Yeah. And I thought my family's just going to think I'm nuts, that I've lost the plot, that there's, because it really shook me to my core at the time. So very briefly, my experience was I was surrounded by woo-woo people. For whatever reason, I drew them in. And, they were literally hugging trees, feeling energy. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. Not my gig, but that's cool. You do you and I'll do me. Love you dearly. A little bit condescending, but it's like, and then I'd go away and go, wow, she's really tripping. Like, maybe she's had too many sort of puffs of that hoochie cooch or something. I don't know what's going on there, but not my deal, not going there. And went to the grounding of a mystery school. Now, please don't ask me what a mystery school is. I still don't know. But my friends were grounding this mystery school. It was a mystery. And this beautiful, she's clearly Palladian because she's very tall, very willowy, very graceful. And she was right at the end, and I had dragged my husband along to this thing. Have since found out that he's way more spiritually evolved than me, and just never really, we just never spoke about it. It was just never a thing in our lives. And she got up and she started speaking light language. So my husband sitting next to me is digging me in the ribs, because for years, we've been together almost 30 years now, and this was like 13, 14 years ago, I think. And he's digging me in the ribs going, that's that language that you speak in your sleep. He used to tell me on some mornings, you were speaking that really weird language again. So for context, my father spoke 7 languages. He was Russian, born in China, so he spoke Russian, he spoke Chinese, he was taught in European schools, he spoke French, he spoke Mandarin, he spoke so many different languages. And I just thought, I'm just picking up on what my dad used to speak in the house. And Laurie would go, I don't know, but it's a definite language. And he's digging me in the ribs going, that's what you do. That's the language. And I'm just looking and going, like, I'm not going to drop the F-bomb right now, but it was like, no. Yeah.
Oh,
We are
that's not
not
me.
going there.
That's not me.
However, what confirmed it was the fact that as soon as she started speaking, I've never experienced anything like it in my life. My entire body, it was like my cells were just about to explode. I felt like I was shaking violently. Externally, I wasn't doing anything, but internally, my whole body, it was like every cell was going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It was so weird. So, and then all this weird stuff started to happen because it was opening up. I had been led spiritually to this granting of this mystery school to support my friends. And I went and spoke to my Anya, and because I'm like 5'2", I'm like really short, and I'm looking up at this really tall, willowy woman, and I was standing there for a while, just kind of like speechless. And I'm sure she was looking at me, going, "Okay, speak." Eventually, I went, "So that language, yes, I think I speak that." So then we became friends, and we're still friends, and we still talk a lot. And she enabled me to be able to speak it and then sing it, because I was trained as an opera singer. So I now sing light language, and embracing that whole world was the hardest thing ever, because I didn't want to be that weird woo-woo chick, because I didn't want to be somebody who put themselves out there ready to be ridiculed, criticized, ostracized. I'd been through that at school. Didn't want to do that again. But I have found, as I have journeyed through my life, that, yeah, some people went, whoa, crazy chick, run. And some people who went, wow, tell me more. And I just went, okay, so you're my people.
Yeah.
You people who are threatened by what I do and what I say and find it weird, you're not my people. The people who want to know more, you're my people.
100%.
And allowing it. I think that's how I got to learn the art of allowing, was learning to allow the light language, learning to allow myself to be the weird woo-woo chick, learning to allow all the weird and wonderful things that have since happened in my life to just happen and not resist them. As Claudia said, the biggest thing is the non-resistance. Stop resisting life, because life is happening for you, not to you. And your suffering happens because you're resisting life. And I want to reiterate what Claudia said. I always, when I get on a roll, everything just bubbles out. But she was saying about don't believe your thoughts. And it reminded me, I had to go and search on who says it. But it's T. Harv Eker who says, don't believe a thought you think. Which really backs up what she was saying, because it's our thoughts that lead us astray, because our thoughts come from our conditioning. Byron Katie says it's our thoughts that create our suffering. So Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say, see your thoughts as the ticker tape that you see on, well, I don't watch the news anymore, but I think everybody's familiar with the little, you can see it here on the thing.
Right down the bottom. Yeah.
It's the bottom. It's that ticker tape. So see your thoughts just like the rolling ticker tape. And then if it is a thought that you want to pick it up and run with it. Or, pick it up for a while and see how it feels. And if it resonates, go, okay, that's cool. That resonates with me. That's aligned with me. But you will start to see it's like, oh, that's not a cool thought. Wow, that's not serving me. Oh, that one really need to ditch that one. But if you're not picking the thoughts up, and that's a skill, then they don't have to run your life. And all the thoughts and the judgments and the criticisms I had about me being the woo-woo chick, where did that come from? Why was I so judgmental about that? Why was I so judgmental about spiritual people? And, the whole, they're just, they're really out there and they're not grounded and all this stuff. Well, I happen to be very grounded. And I feel like I've got a foot in both camps.
Yeah.
So, and we do this We do life the way we do life. Why do we judge the way people do life?
Yeah.
Unless you're hurting somebody or yourself, then drop the judgment.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things in allowing to actually move through the transformation and accept the parts of myself that are very spiritual and love playing in that space. And I am so proud of my weird flag now, but there was definitely a lot of stages of the process where I was just I had a lot of thoughts that I was choosing to make myself feel to make myself scared so that I didn't make the changes that were happening, you know. And it's that what I love is like the resistance that was there, it was still happening, and it was just like it was just like the more I resisted, the more I had negative thoughts. It was like the more obvious things became, and the bigger the signals from the universe were hitting me. One of the biggest things that I talk about often is, for me, in the resistance of it, I created so much chaos in my life, because spirituality is such a part of who I am, and I don't wear this headgear out when I'm a podiatrist and in that career, or as a life coach. Like, I get to play in the different parts of myself that feel really good. And it's been that dropping the resistance and dropping back into who I am and out of the conditioning of who I should be, and the things that I should do, and the career that I should have that's safe and normal, and like I got the university degree. I've worked in that place, and it's not who I am in my core. And working in that space is great, and I love helping people. So it's a beautiful profession for me to be in, and I'm really good at it. But my genius zone is actually, and part of my life purpose is actually owning this part of who I am and allowing other people to see it, because it becomes a permission slip for them to go on their own transformation journey. And I think one of the things I love, Margarita, is the different healing modalities and the different styles and the different gifts that come through, because it's so unique to each individual. And I feel like our transformation that happens from being like, oh, I'm interested in this, but I'm not really, I don't want to be like those people, to being like, oh, here I am on a global unity stage talking about it very openly. Like, the transformation, that the journey that had that is so much about just coming back and finding yourself and going, okay, is that thought really good for me? And is it allowing me to be who I am? Because I had so many thoughts previously that were actually keeping me trapped inside a version of myself that wasn't real.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Steeped in all the conditioning. And as you said, I should be this or I should be that. And I love, there was a coach who once said to me, you're shooting all over yourself. And I love that.
Yes, that's my favorite too.
Yeah.
Stop shooting on
yourself. And just to, the way I see what you said a moment ago is that we are so multidimensional. We are this incredible, powerful, spiritual beings having a human experience. And we are so multidimensional, multifaceted, and we get to be whoever we want to be. So just say, in this moment, you actually dropped all judgment, all labels, all conditioning about who you should be right now, and go, who do I want to be right now? Who do I get to be right now? And then try it on. Like, just say, we kind of lose, this came to me fairly recently. And that movie that everybody loves, and I keep forgetting the name of it, but it was like a dog that was like a dragon, and The Never Ending Story.
Yeah, beautiful.
I love that movie so much. and the void was creeping in and gobbling everything up because the children were forgetting about their imagination, and we get conditioned out of being able to explore our imagination and our creativity. And as we get older, it's like, oh no, that's for little people, that's for young people. We don't do that as we get older. Why not? Like, bring out the playful version of you. When was the last time you really brought out the playful version of you? And this is where I love Claudia's energy, because she's so playful. You can see it's almost like the elf energy in her or the fairy energy in her that just gets to play. Why can't we be Tinkerbell? Why can't we express that side of ourselves?
Yeah.
And remembering that, yes, some people are going to look at you and go, that's a bit strange. But their judgment is actually because they're kind of jealous, because they really want to be that playful person, but they've been conditioned out of it. No, you can't do that. You have to be grown up. We all have to be grown up. Well, screw being grown up, because grown up in that way is freaking boring.
I 100% agree. I feel like that's I feel like that's one of the biggest parts for me, was realizing every time I've got really serious about something, like it was very much in parenting as well for me, and I got really serious about being a good parent, and to other people's ideal of what a good parent is, and it just creates chaos in my life. I end up not liking who I am, and it took me a long time to realize that it was because I was living from the should place and not actually just being who I am and having fun. Like, we actually get to choose how we want to experience our life. I know that it seems like we get told that we're not, but we're so in control of what we want to think, what we want, how we want to feel. And yes, when you haven't been taught that yet, it doesn't feel like that at all. But the more that I've come back to myself, and the more I've come back to allowing that transformation to take place, where I know who I am in this now moment, and I know who I'm choosing to be in this now moment, and I'm living by that space, then the more alignment I have with it all, and the more fun I get to have. Like, and I literally judge things by, does it make me feel good or not? Like, do I want to think like that? No, that makes me feel like crap when I think that I'm not good enough. Okay, cool. What's a choice that what's a thought that I'm going to have instead? Oh, I can do this, or I just need to learn the skills and then I'll be able to do this. Like, much more fun thoughts. And it's like, but we don't get taught that. We don't get taught how in control we are, and how much we are transmuters of energy. And when there's emotions that come up, we can just choose to move through them instead of storing them. And that's a huge transformation in itself, because it's, we're the way that we've been brought up, we I don't feel like my parents didn't have the information that I have on how in control I am. It's all, everybody else has an input, and I have to live by everybody else's rule in order to feel good and in order to do well in life. But it's actually, from my journey, has been back to like, what actually is good for me. And that transformation's been massive, and it's an everyday choice.
100%. And it's dropping those external expectations and being worried. We are so worried about what everybody else thinks. Who cares? Are they living your life? No. Then why do they get to control your life? Why do other people's judgments, perceptions, thoughts, criticism about you control your life? Since when was their thought about you more important than your own joy, happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, the richness that you get to live in this beautiful world? And if they're pointing a finger at you and criticizing you, as long as you are coming from a place of kindness and love, and you're really aware of the actions that the actions, your actions, how they're impacting others. If your actions are impacting others in a negative way because they choose to respond negatively to what it is that you're doing or how you're being, then that is not your problem. That is not your business. That is not in your control, because that is their choice.
Yeah.
If you are doing something that is deliberately or causing an effect on somebody, how do I say this? Not that anybody within this realm would do this, but sometimes some people do things that deliberately inflict pain on somebody else. We're seeing a lot of that in the world right now.
Yeah.
And those things, not cool. But if you are simply out living your life from a space of kindness and love and joy and peace, then these people who are standing there choosing to criticize you for not being responsible or for being too gregarious or too out there, shame on them. You know, I remember years and years ago, my husband threw a surprise birthday party for me. And it wasn't like a special date or a special number or anything. It was just he decided to throw a surprise birthday for me. And we went out to dinner, and there were all these people who just showed up at my dinner. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, what are you doing here? Holy crap.
Hold on a second.
That's right. What? How come you're here at this time? That's weird. And I had the most fun night, but I drank alcohol that night, and I don't drink alcohol very often because it doesn't sit with me. But in company, I get very loud, very gregarious, and the owners of the restaurant, like it was a big restaurant, but the owners of the restaurant had to move people away because I was having so much fun that people were disturbed by me being loud and laughing. When I laugh, holy crap. When I really laugh, it's really loud. But instead of people just going, oh my God, that is so cool, she's having so much fun, they were like, oh, can you move me away from that woman? She's so annoying. And I'm really lucky that I wasn't aware of that, because I would have felt like, oh, I can't be me right now. I can't be loud. I can't be happy. But, you know, it's like, and the more we judge us and criticize ourselves, the more we tend to judge and criticize people in our external world.
Yeah.
Notice that. I have a critical voice in my mind, and more I'm going, wow, listen to that judgment. I think it's very rare that somebody doesn't have a critical voice. You see people doing things and go, oh, really? Seriously? And that's because I'm really hard on myself and I judge myself. So it's learning to unlearn these things, I think.
Yeah.
And not beat ourselves
100%.
up for our flaws.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like it's beautiful that you mentioned that the joy moment when you were out and it really triggering people, because it's something that I've come to realize in my journey is that, you know, part of my journey is actually living at a level of joy that does trigger people. It triggers people sometimes. And that's part of my soul path, is actually triggering them, and then they get to choose what they do with that trigger. It has nothing to do with me. And whether they choose to look at it and go, hey, like that person's having a lot of fun and my life is not so much fun, maybe I want to be more like that, or whether that's just going to annoy them, that's not my business. But my business is to shine really brightly and to have a lot of fun and to be very joyous, and know that part of that process, part of that being who I am, not everybody is going to resonate with that. And that's okay, because when you were just talking then, the quote, and I'm going to botch it up, but the essence of it is that somebody's opinion of you is actually an indication of how they think of themselves, as opposed to anything to do with you, like anything to do with me. So I know that somebody's being very critical, that they have a very critical internal voice. And so instead of, for me, I'm in a space now where instead of being triggered by that, because I've come to my full awareness that my joy is going to trigger people, and I'm okay with that. That if somebody has a criticism, I can meet them so much better, so much more with love and acceptance, because I understand that that's something that's happening with them. And often it's because of the conditioning that they've had and their fear around being overjoyous, because sometimes as children we get told that, not to, especially the generation before us, like, it's, you be seen and not heard. And so they've had that conditioning. So they're really, actually, it's their way of loving me, even though it doesn't feel like love sometimes. But it's their way of, like, tamper it down so that you can be okay in the world. But they don't, it doesn't feel like that at times. But once you've owned the parts of yourself and you're okay with those parts of yourself, then you can see that in another person, as opposed to it being like, they don't like me. I better stop doing that. I better go back to my box that feels safe and normal. It's like, okay, I'm not going to fit in the box. I'm okay with that. I'm well past the box stage.
There is no box that can contain a free spirit. And we should never, ever, ever, I don't know where we went down this path, that we felt that we had to put people in boxes and for us to feel safe. And that, and what you just said is that, okay, I have to comply with everybody else's expectations of who I should be, how I should be, what I should do, how I show up, to make them feel safe. Because if I don't make them feel safe, then I'm not safe. Because if they don't feel safe, then they're going to direct all their judgment, criticism, anger, whatever it is, at me, because I'm threatening their safety. And instead, I'm suggesting that we rise above that. We rise above all of that low vibration, because it is such a low vibration, and say, okay, if you don't like that, and not actually saying it verbally, but demonstrating to them, you see this joy? Come with me. Come with me. Come with me. Come with me. And that's something that's sort of that's really coming through right now. It's that instead of dumbing ourselves down or squishing ourselves into the box for the sake of others, we're actually not serving ourselves, and we're not serving them either. Instead, we get there, stand there and go, but this is so much more fun. Come this way, come this way, come this way, come this way. And they're going, no, that's not right. But I really want to. No, that's not right. But I really want to. No, that's not right. Maybe just for a little bit. Maybe just for a little bit more. And they start to lean into it. But unless, I mean, in a world of grey, where there is no colour demonstrated, you don't know that there can be colour. So in a world of grey, and you've got one person who is colourful, actually there's a story about that perfectly demonstrates this. I used to work, believe it or not, in corporate. I was actually, so many people, so much of my community are shocked by this. I was really totally plugged into the matrix.
Yeah.
No idea any of this existed. And I used to work in the corporate world in Sydney, in the centre of Sydney. So I would do the whole lemming thing, get on the train, and I'm not judging that so many people still do it and are still in that thing, and some people love it. I didn't, but I would get on the train in the morning, trek in, and we would all be like a herd of sheep, just all getting off the train at the other end, and we'd be like these mice, and we'd all, run out of the train station. We'd all go our separate ways. I would love to have seen that from a drone, seriously. And we'd all like scurried off to our little tiny offices in these great big massive buildings. And there was clearly something calling me at that time, because I looked around and it was winter time. You know how in Sydney, when it's cold, everybody wears those really long coats, and they're all black, grey or brown. That's it. all I could see was this sea of black, grey, or brown. And I went, ugh. It was so yuck. It was just, and I went, really? And I was wearing a black coat. I was like, really? This is where I am. This is what we do. Why? So it challenged me a lot, because the thing about my bullying was I didn't want to stand out because I was afraid internally of being bullied, blah, 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 all that yuck stuff. And because I didn't fit in. But that lunchtime, I went out and I bought the most colourful clothes I could buy. I bought bright yellow tights, bright purple tights. I had another colour. But then I bought bright yellow tops, bright purple tops. I bought all these really bright colours. And from that point forward, I would come to work in bright yellow tights and a bright yellow top. I got called the canary, or lemon legs. I got called lemon legs. But I would wear these really bright clothes. And what was interesting was there was two types of reactions, because I started to watch people. I was very self-conscious because I stood out like dog's balls. I was like, you couldn't miss me. And there was two different reactions. People would either literally move away from me and go, okay then, because I was so far out of their paradigm, or they would smile. They would look up, see me, and then they wouldn't acknowledge me. They just put their head down, but smile. I was inappropriate. I was out of the box. I was not fitting into the paradigm, but I brought a smile to their face, and that mattered. This
That
was
does matter.
15 years ago. Very different now. They probably wouldn't even give me a second thought now, or a second look now. But back 15 years ago, that world was very bland, very vanilla. And I was this disruption in their universe. And for some, it was way too confronting. And for others, it was like, just put a smile to their face. And they put their head down and they went to work. And I guarantee they probably never gave me another thought. But at least I brought a smile to their face for the day. So
I love your story, because it reminds me so much of my own, in where it all began for me in shifting. And I remember being in a space that's very similar, of like that, just I'd been in a space of recognizing like the hamster wheel kind of situation that was happening in my life, and the amount of stress that was there. And I was really down, and I remember opening my cupboard, and everything in my cupboard was black, grey, beige, or brown. And I was like, where have I gone? Like, where have I gone? Like, and that was my catalyst. So I just loved hearing your story, because it was like, that was the moment where I went, this isn't me. Like, this isn't who I am. Like, I love color. Like, I love wearing color, I love being bright. But I'd recognized that I was like, I'd moved, I'd moved so much into that, like trying to fit in and be okay and be acceptable, that even my wardrobe was reflecting that. And it was a choice that I'd made that day, that I was going to wear my electric blue pants that I had to go through my entire cupboard to find at the bottom of the pile tucked away to put them on. And that day I felt so much more myself, and so many people commented on it, like so many people commented on it. And it was just this huge realization of how much I'd been in that bland, and like that I'd allowed everything to weigh myself down. And it was that, okay, like, let me just express. And in that expression created so much joy for myself. And it created so much in terms of me going, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to be a part of this whatever this is. And I want to go somewhere else with it. I think it's really important, Margarita, for us to also mention that it's like we are born with the fear of, we're born with three fears: loud noises, falling, and not being accepted, because part of that is important for our survival. And it's why I got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to be accepted, especially when I became a mum. Like, this realization was when my fifth child was only 1 and everything was black. And I was in this really dark space, and my wardrobe completely reflected that. And it was more about me just going, I get to come back to who I am and my joy. And that moment of recognition of where I was what led me down the path of, okay, I'm going to do something about this. I actually, instead of going into the critical thoughts, which I did all the time, which I had this moment where I'm like, okay, that's not working. So what if I just decided that I actually am amazing, and anything else in my life, if I want to make a change, if I want to learn something, I'll go and learn it. And I learn the skills, and then I'm able to do it. Like, I've done that in so many areas in my career. There's so many areas in my life where I had done that, where I just went, instead of beating myself up about not being where I am and not being where I want to be, I was like, why don't I just go and get the skills? Why don't I'm going to look up right now. I looked up different life coaching and energy healing stuff, and dove into that world, because I was like, I'm sick of feeling it. I'm going to find somebody who's not feeling like that and go and learn from them, because it was such a big part of the recognizing that just giving myself a break, that it was, all of this was here, but beating myself up was just creating more of it. And actually moving into okay, well, maybe I just don't have that skill set yet, or that way of seeing the world yet. And who can I go and find who's seeing the world differently, that resonates with me, that I can go listen to for a while? And that was a huge catalyst. Yeah, that was a huge catalyst. So I love that the color and the recognition of the, like, everybody in the black and gray and beige. I'm like, these people are lost. I don't want to be with those people. I'm going to go find myself.
Absolutely. And at that point in my life, I had no idea what was going to open up for me down the track. And but there was obviously a yearning and a calling and something in me that just said, this ain't right. And this is not where I want to be. This is not who I want to be. And I kind of swung the pendulum in the other way. And I guess I've always been somebody who has not complied and not followed the herd. And when I recognized that I was following the herd, it was so distasteful for me. And I'm not saying that that's wrong for anybody else. It was wrong for me. And to think that, I mean, you're looking so glorious in your colors. And I mean, you're looking like this beautiful peacock with all these beautiful colors, and you're so alive and vibrant, and there's so much joy in you. And imagine the difference for your children to experience you from the black, the darkness, the fitting in, the compliance, because you are their greatest teacher, and them going, oh, well, that's how I have to be in the world. No, you get to be you. Even if, and kids feel embarrassed by their parents, it's like, okay, go ahead and feel embarrassed all you like, because you will find as you get older that the ability to just be you, give yourself permission to be you, give yourself permission to do you, however wild, however weird, however unacceptable it seems to be in society, just do you. It's the most liberating thing ever.
Yeah. Ruffle the feathers. It's a lot of fun.
I
love that. And I love what you were just saying about for my children as well, because it has been single-handedly the most important thing that's happened in my relationship with them, because choosing me and putting myself first, and then running for what I love. Not only is it actually mean that my cup's full all the time, and so I'm overflowing with love. But before, when I was trying to be everything for everybody else, it was very constricted, and it was like they were getting in trouble all the time, because it was like, we have a strict set of rules, and kids are not designed to be in a strict set of rules. They're designed to play and have fun and explore and try on different personas and try on different things. But because my acceptable had been such a small range, that it wasn't until me going, okay, I'm going to go and explore what's acceptable for me outside of what other people think, and what come back to my journey and like my gifts and opening up all of these things so I'm more comfortable being who I am, then it's actually definitely shown up in my children as well. And like our children, they learn by mimicking, and there's no amount of me saying to them, you get to be exactly who you are, and you know, you get to have fun, that is going to translate if I'm living a life where I'm like, like I've got to do this and I've got to do this, and I'm running around like a crazy person because I'm trying to please everybody else instead of pleasing myself. And so the transformation for me in actually going on the journey and finding out and opening up these amazing gifts and like just going through all of this has translated so much into such a depth of relationship in myself, which means I can meet them at a deeper level and that they feel more comfortable being who they are, because one, I'm not trying to put them into a box because like I was doing myself, and two, they see that I'm doing what I want to do, what lights me up, and we talk about it, and so they see that as an example, and they see the growth. Literally, they're literally to come on to the Global Unity Festival. The last time I hosted, they were all sending me energy. I'm like, because I spoke to them the night before. I was like, I'm doing this thing. It's really big. I'm nervous. Like, I'm actually nervous. I know when I get there, I will be fabulous. But I had a lot of nerves coming up, and that's the humanity. That's how humanity is, and that whole wanting to be accepted and liked. Like, I'm still working through that. It's not a done at one and done situation. So they were like, they told me when they finished, I know for me, when I get onto the camera, once I'm there, things flow through me. And I love that. And it's beautiful to involve them in their process. And even my son on the Monday morning, who's 18, texted me to say, Mum, I'm so proud of you for doing that thing on the weekend. And so that was huge, you know, especially from an 18-year-old who has minimal words and grunts a lot. It was huge to receive from him that recognition, because they're seeing what I'm doing and they're involved in the process, and that inspires them to go and take more risks in their own lives. And it's funny that I use the word risk because there is a part of that comes up when you're stepping outside of the box, and it's a normal and real part. And part of this game is stepping outside and then regulating your nervous system, telling yourself you're okay, you didn't die at the end of it, and that it was all right, and that even if people, you know, I found, I don't know about yourself, Margarita, but when I was first opening up about things, and I came out and I did a live about how I loved crystals and how I use them in massage and all of this, and it was kind of like everyone was like, "Oh, you didn't know that about yourself already?" Like, I felt like I was outing my spiritual self to the world, and everyone was like, "Oh, okay." Like,
we knew it.
Oh, Rochelle.
Oh, that's hilarious, isn't it? Is it funny how those who are the most perceptive in our lives can see it before we do?
Yeah. And it's such a big thing. And it's, I feel like that's the conditioning for myself was so much my own resistance as well, like believing that was my own resistance, because there's fear around stepping out and being seen differently, because we're born with that. We're born with the desire to fit in, because, you know, in clan days, if we weren't accepted and we were cast out into the wild by ourselves, we had limited chance of survival. And we don't live in that society anymore, but that conditioning is still, and that nervous system response is still a part of who we are. It's a part of our DNA. It's a part of our past life experiences. And so it's normal that those parts of ourselves come up. And it's about finding people who can help you regulate and move through them at the same time, or finding ways you can do it yourself.
And in actual fact, you said that we don't live in those times anymore. We certainly don't live in times where we are cast out into the wilderness and into the, into the physical survival and the bitter cold. However, that is still alive within our society, and we see it on social media. Like, how everybody thinks it's okay to cast their opinion on a single person. And we saw it, it still blows my mind at something like the whole crap that unfolded at the Oscars just this week. Everybody had an opinion. And if you didn't agree with that person's opinion, then there was something wrong with you. And everybody felt that it was their right to express that opinion. It's like, why is that even relevant to you? And why is it, why do you think it's important for you to express your opinion about those people in the world? Like, why do we think that it's our opinion is that important that we have to share it with all and sundry?
Yeah.
And is it kind? Is it necessary? And what's the other one? You know what I'm talking about. Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it helpful? You know, I teach and I train and I share my beliefs on things, but I share them because I believe I'm helping somebody. My opinion on somebody else's behavior, why do I need to share that? You know? And we will crucify people on social media because they don't fit into our social realms, into our what we believe is appropriate. So it sort of kind of does exist, and I can see why people are still afraid to endure the fire of other people's judgment and criticism. But this is why we have to stop caring about what other people think and just start caring more for ourselves and each other. Because the opinions of others really don't matter. They just don't. Live your life. And I love what you said before about I didn't die. It's a bit like me wearing all those colorful clothes. I felt like a rainbow on the train. And that did not feel good. It felt good from the perspective of I was being me, but when you're standing out that much, and when I had worked so hard to try and fit in, because standing out to me as a child was uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, putting myself out in that way was really uncomfortable. And it got more and more comfortable and I started to embrace it. But it was because I got to work and I didn't die.
Yeah, I think it's to regulate, right?
I might have got a few strange looks, but nobody ran up to me and abused me or said anything bad. And I put a smile on a few people's faces. It was like, oh, that was cool. And then I did it the next day and it got more and more, it became normal for me. And I actually really started to feel the joy of being the rainbow in people's lives first thing in the morning. And, you know, it's like start living outside your comfort zone. Just live outside your comfort zone. Don't step outside of your comfort zone every now and again. Live outside of your comfort zone because that's where the joy is. That's where the fun is. That's where the magic is, outside of your comfort zone.
And so many big feelings. And I think that's the beautiful part is like it's that all of it is true, right? This and that is true. It's there's such a shift now in the world. Like I feel it. I'm sure that you do too. We have a space like this where there's a lot of people coming together and recognizing how we get to create unity with us, but we get to acknowledge each and everybody as individuals and their own uniqueness. And it's only in recognizing both the unity and the uniqueness, like the individuality, that things get to shift and things get to transform. And I feel like where we've been at in terms of society has been so much about community. And there's a certain level of coming back to self and knowing yourself fully to be able to give more to community, because I feel like there was the community only, and then there was a very individual stage that felt almost selfish, and everyone was out for their own good. And now it's like how can you be fully yourself and own all of your gifts and all of your genius, and use that to the betterment of community, because that's the beautiful transformation that I feel I'm living through right now. And with all of the light, there's the shadows that come with it as well. And it's more, that's what I love about this space and this festival, about taking our own personal responsibility of uplifting our own selves and knowing that that impacts the entire world, that our transformation, however that is for you, if you're corporate and that lights you up, then that's amazing. Like,
Do you?
that's amazing. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
feel like the big part is like it be 100% who you are in your own unique light, and allow yourself to actually go through the transformation of coming back to self and out of all of the shoulds and could-haves and all of that, what ifs, all of those things. Yeah, it's a beautiful space we're in, I think, in that waking up to realize how much control we have over the transformation. And there's a lot of people out there now who are teaching that and are coming from that space and allowing, being the example of allowing people to own who they are uniquely, and also make changes in their lives that allow them to feel really good about who they are. And I love that you're part of that change.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm so blessed to get to be on this journey and to share this journey with others, and to awaken a part of them that might have been asleep for a very long time. So I think for thousands of years we've put our true spirit to sleep in order to survive. And now that true spirit is awakening, and I think it's awakening because it's being agitated. And that agitation is awkward and difficult, and but you can either embrace it and allow it, or you can fight it. And if you fight it, it's going to be so damn painful. So we have an incredible opportunity right here, right now, to really create massive transformation in our world. And I love that that's the theme for today, is transformation, because that is what is happening in our world right now. And when we embrace that opportunity and run with it, the magic that will happen beyond all what we're seeing in the world right now, not to diminish some people's experience through this.
Yeah.
And, Ratnamurti mentioned that we are so lucky not to live in other parts of the world. And I've actually been doing a sound healing for the last, so this will be day 22 of a sound healing that I've been doing every day for the last 21 days, and a meditation. And one of the things that I mention during that meditation is bringing light to these morphic fields or collective consciousness, or but it's like a group think. I love that term that's come out in the last couple of years, but this group think, and that places that are war torn and have conflict is kind of embedded in the psyche. And even though there are so many innocent people who are suffering as a result of that conflict, and there's a lot of suffering that's happened for thousands of years because of this collective consciousness that is co-creating all of it. They don't realize they're co-creating it, but they're co-creating it because of that morphic field that has existed within their history for so long. Now is the time that we get to break that. Now is the time that it is so in our faces that instead of sitting back and going, oh my, of course, have compassion and empathy, but instead of the only thing we do is sit back and go, oh, that's so sad. Oh, it must be so horrible to be them. Oh, it's so awful. Oh, we just don't want this to be happening. It's in our face. And it's up to us to step into this incredibly light, powerful light being that we are, and go, enough. And I honestly believe that this spiritual war that we are in right now, in so many ways, on so many levels, that we get to win this on the spiritual plane.
Yeah.
I don't believe that it is going to be won solely on the human plane. We get to rise above into our powerful spiritual essence light being, and we get to pour light onto this planet, and we get to disrupt and dissolve these chronically dysfunctional morphic fields and collective conscious darkness that has created so much suffering in so many different ways. And it's up to us to do that. Anyway, that's my little spiel.
No, it's great. I have a video that I'd love to show in a moment that is very much in line with what you're talking about. And I feel like this is the beautiful part of what's happening in the world, and realizing that our individual selves have such a reflection on the group thinking. Like what you were just talking into of that group think process and how that creates darkness or a lot of joy, is that we get to actually allow ourselves to step into the energy that we're wanting to create for the world moving forward. And we actually have an effect on the world by choosing to do that. It's not just a random, oh, I'm going to feel love and light, because you can feel whatever you want, but the choosing that we're doing, and then choosing to uplift yourself and choosing to come together and then choosing to unify, it has a massive impact on a global scale. And there is actually science on this now, and that's the video that I'd love to show you. It's only a short video. It's just under 2 minutes long, and it's exactly what we're talking into, exactly what the whole Global Unity Festival is based around, is like how you individually have a opportunity to make a difference in the world by how you show up, and how everybody watching this space, everybody who chooses each day to make an effort to be a better person, to be in a better space, is how much that actually affects the whole planet. Because we get to do this together, and it takes an individual. It takes you. The only person you have control of is yourself, and so it's about making those choices yourself. So I'm going to show the video because I feel like it perfectly sums up exactly what you've just said, Margarita. I'm going to play it now.
Cool.
The Global Consciousness Project started in 1998. The idea was that if really large numbers of people feel the same emotion and think the same thoughts, they create a real consciousness that makes the world different from what it would have been. The implication is to find out whether consciousness and intention and emotions and so forth are stuck inside your head, or if they extend outward as a kind of mind-matter connection.
How does that work?
This is one of two kinds of random number generators. You get ones and zeros at a really high rate of speed. Mathematically, we expect the average to be right in the middle. 50 will be ones, 50 will be zeros. And it really is like an electronic coin flipper.
You flip a coin 100 times and it would be 50-50?
That's right. We do that in 65 locations around the world, continuously, day after day, 24/7 for years.
Counting ones and zeros.
Counting ones and zeros during the great outpourings of emotion in the world. These devices stop producing random data.
Give me one, for instance. What's an event you measured?
Events like Princess Diana's funeral, bombings of the embassies in Africa, the tsunami that killed 250,000 people, terrorist attacks of various kinds. We look also at pleasant events like New Year's or religious celebrations. We'll look at the data, and what we find is a change from 50-50 odds to something different from that.
It's a really cool place to be in, where we're at a point in time where we're actually measuring these things. We're actually creating the science behind the woo that has been something that has been around for centuries. You know, it's not new of large groups of people gathering together in a collective way of thinking and trying to lift the planet. There's amazing the Maharishi effect is an amazing I'm trying to think of the right word to use. It's a group of people who got together and were sent to areas in the world where there was like high violence, high crime, you know, lots of bad things happening in the world. And they got together and they meditated collectively, these large groups of people. And by doing that, it shifted the consciousness in that area. The crime rates went down. The acts of violence went down in the area, and it was simply them meditating in the space that they can see was a correlation, which is why this festival, that's what it's all about, is actually bringing everybody into that intention at the same time. And we do it in waves here, but it's creating the energy within yourself that is going to affect the entire planet.
Absolutely.
That's what I love about what you do in your light language, Margarita, and what you were talking into when you were saying when you experienced it for the first time is like your whole body went to a whole different space. Like the energy that your body was producing in that space affected the whole cosmos. Like we're so affected by these things. And so it's amazing that you bring that to the world, and you allow yourself to move through all the human resistance, the resistance that comes up with being human, and allow it to flow through you, because it makes such a difference to people who are watching it and who are experiencing it, especially if it's for the first time. And I imagine you have such a varied response to your light language, because even if it doesn't awaken them, they feel good straight away, if they're feeling it in their core, like what you experience where it changed. I know for myself, as soon as I heard someone speak light language, all I wanted to do was respond. And the first time I did it, I'm like, oh, I'm not saying anything, like I'm not doing anything. But my whole body was like, they can hear, like it was like I had a huge emotional experience about, you know, how of like I could be heard. That's what it felt like somebody understands me. And it wasn't, and it's those feelings that you create for people, that for some people they'll be like, oh my God, this is amazing, I know, like, and for others it can be scary, be like, what is going on inside of me? And the reaction is it's uncertain, and so I'm going to be fearful. So imagine you have a range of responses for the beautiful process that you do.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because at the end of 2020, myself and some colleagues put on a big concert in the Redlands. So it was in somebody's backyard, and we brought in this incredible stage, and I brought in other opera singers. So we did Christmas carols, and it was on the 20th of December. So there was a big energetic shift happening on the 21st, and it was kind of happening over the 3 days, and the peak was on the 21st of December. So we did the concert on the 20th to sort of support it. And we did Christmas carols and opera singing, and we had a didgeridoo, and we had a welcome to country and singing bowls, and I did my light language, and we had an audience of over 100 in the gardens, but we had over 1,000 people on the live stream who are watching it. And when I did the light language, the way I explained it was because we had just a wide audience who may not necessarily have been in that space. So I wasn't going to tell them I was channeling light language. I just said, I'm going to sing a song that's like a spiritual prayer. But I had people who were at the event come up to me afterwards and go, oh my God, you were singing light language. That was so cool. I never mentioned light language. But so many more people were receptive and open and understood what it was that I was doing at that time. And it will touch everybody in different ways. And I just want to, as much as bringing people together in a mass conscious, in a mass way to pray and to send love and light and do those things, obviously has a huge effect. It's important to realize that our own individual vibration is incredibly electric and powerful and impactful in the world. Just because you are one person meditating and elevating your frequency and your vibration, don't think that you aren't having an impact on the entire world. And this is what I have to constantly remind myself, is that even though I only have a small audience who may be listening directly to the light language, I know that the light and the work that is being done through me is having a palpable impact on the world. And we may not see a direct overnight shift, but as it elevates that vibration and frequency and consciousness gradually, day by day, as I continue to do it, the whole world shifts. And I'm not the only person doing it. There are thousands upon thousands of people who are doing similar practices or different practices, but all focusing on elevating the frequency. And every single person who contributes to that makes a difference. Everybody makes a difference. That's really important.
Yeah, and beautiful to bring in that it's important the person doing it and the person receiving. Like, it takes both to create that energy, and I think that's a beautiful part. We all play our role in it. We all play our piece in the vibrational shifting, and it's important to follow that and to actually move into it. And whatever's kind of sparking your joy and sparking your interest, like, move into that space, lean into it, even if it does feel uncomfortable. The more we get to lean into those places, the more we expand. And with expansion and transformation, there's moments where it does feel uncomfortable. It's okay, and there's moments where it just feels really good, and you're like, and you have no idea what's going on, and you just go with it. And I feel like that's a big part of light language, is like, it's just coming through. Like, I'm just gonna go with what's there, and it's like moving the humanity out of the way enough that the energy can come through you, because it's such a big part. It's such a big part. I know with myself, with the readings, I'll often be like, I have no idea why I'm saying this, but the person on the other end they put it all together. It's such a beautiful experience, because it's moving myself out of the way to allow the transformation to happen through me rather than as me.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to bring Ratnamurti back up onto this stream in a minute. I've just noticed that she's stepped away for a second, so I'll give her a second to come back. I'll bring her back in.
Well, while she's coming back in, there's a quick story. I noticed across the screen, one of my websites, Pitbull Mindset, came up. And it's interesting because as a light worker, there was a whole story behind that, which I'm not going to go into. But as a light worker, I rebranded under the name Pitbull Mindset about 5 years ago. And it was that was really challenging for me, because in the light worker world, I felt like, oh, but I have to be light and fluffy and, all sort of, and it's kind of like this Pitbull mindset. It's like, and I had some people say to me, very few, I had some people say to me, oh, you can't do that. But then I had other people, when I kind of went, you know what? Watch me. I'm going to do it anyway. And it was so liberating, because in the work that I do, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to hold your hand while you sit in that space of suffering and wallow. Let's just clear that crap out and get it done. And my friends, as soon as I told them about, the idea, they were like, oh my God, that is so you. You give me such a hard time when when I come up with stuff, and you're like, yeah, nah, just clear that crap out. And then when I did it, and then I started to be interviewed under that name, I got a very different response, as in, oh my God, I love it. So, and it was very liberating for me, because then I just got to be me. I didn't have to play this, and this is not to, I don't mean to be critical of, this was my perception. Okay, so this was my perception of the woo-woo space, that we all had to just be, oh, that's so terrible, and I'm so sorry that you feel that way, and be just all jump in the pot with them. Whereas I'm like, I'm not jumping in that pot with you. That pot stinks. Let's get you out of that damn pot, love. You know? And that's where I think when we start to embrace that we just get to be us and raw and real and authentic, that it shifts everything. So yeah. Hello, Ratnamurti. It's so lovely to have you back in this space.
Very interesting. I've been listening. I agree with you. Nobody can keep taking on another person's stuff. It just makes you sick. And it doesn't help the other person. It doesn't empower them. Good on you. And I love the pitbull thing.
Look, it still triggers people, and I'm okay with that. It's like, okay, well, if that triggers you, either you get to explore that or you don't. Up to you.
What I love the most, it's funny that I love that you're mentioning it, because I noticed it when I was putting it in. I was like, oh, that's really interesting that it's like it's not what you would expect, which is part of it, right? The expectations are really where we go wrong in the world. And I love where we're at now, where it's the recognition that spirituality is in everything, and embracing these parts of ourselves doesn't mean that you need to go off and wear velvet and grow your underarm hair and live in the forest. Like, it's actually, how do you bring the source and God energy into everything you do in every way to transform your life in a beautiful way that allows you to feel more aligned with who you are and allows everything to flow through you. I know for myself, in coming back to who I am, everything's been it means my life flows with ease and grace. And when I'm like not inviting spirit in, and I'm like, no, I am not that person who can see things, or I'm going to be this person who's got a profession, who's done all the right things and gone to university, in that space, my world was chaotic, because I was denying such a huge aspect of who I am, who everybody. Spirituality is such a huge aspect of every person. You can't. It's mind, body, and spirit. You can't just live off the mind and body and expect life to flow freely, because it's got to go around. It can't go back and forward between mind and body. It has to incorporate all three for your life to kind of flow. And I know for myself in that space, opening up to that spiritual side and also maintaining who I am in the mind and body who I've created up until now, because that's not a mistake either. God didn't put me, or source, or whatever your word for that higher power energy is, didn't put me on that path for no reason. There was a reason why I had to go and live that life and get to a point where I realized that wasn't serving me so much, and move into a new way of being that allowed all of that transformation to take place. And then life flows so much easier, because I'm allowing myself to be all of the things that I am, spiritual, very spiritually connected as well, and live a very normal life where I have my children. We do all of the normal things. It's like removing myself from society is not an option. It's like, how can I be that and allow my life to flow in a beautiful way, because I'm allowing spirit in, and I'm allowing that to be who I am in each and every moment, not just when I'm in meditation, and not just when I'm in a beautiful light language, or having my chakras balanced, or, not just in those moments, but how can I be spiritual and allow God to kind of, or source or energy to kind of guide me through all of the mundane, like the normal stuff, because that's what makes it so much fun.
Wow. It's lovely.
I love your energy, Ratnamurti. I love it. Especially because when you talk, it's exactly the same reaction. And I love that you're like, wow, for everybody. It's beautiful.
Hey, Rochelle, when part of you is from a deeply spiritual culture, you're never happy unless you embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't turn your back. I think it's been so sad that around the world that has happened. So sad. Enforced. But when you embrace it, I think the spirit just starts to fly high.
Yeah, and it feels good to actually move into that space. And even though there's all the humanness around it, like there's definitely for me in my journey back to my spiritual self and then back to my culture, and that's still a journey coming back to my culture that we're like generationally we're torn away from, that there's still so much of the human self and the ego that is like very present, and it's a continual moving through of like, okay, but what feels good for me? Like if I feel like when we're in a space where we're choosing what other people expect, we're choosing them, and then when we're choosing their expectation, we're saying no to who we are, and that doesn't feel good. Constantly being told no, 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 you can't be this. It doesn't feel good. And so it's like for me, opening my spirituality up is like just saying yes to myself and yes to whatever's coming through.
You know, the last of the great tohungas in this country died passed over about 2007. His quote about ego was, it's how we express ourselves. I thought, oh my God, I can live with that.
Yeah, I feel like ego gets such a bad rap. It's part of who we are for a reason, and we get to dance with it instead, as opposed to be like, I'm going to ignore my ego. It's part of who we are. Like
Ego is not a dirty word.
Yes,
No,
yes,
yeah,
serves us well. It's just we also get to learn more and play with it, as opposed to it being this bad thing that happens to us. Like it's for us at the same time.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I think the spiritual journey, one of the things I love about it is that you come to realize that you're more than your ego. But you do need it, like you said, Margarita, you do need it.
Oh, look, I think without ego, none of us would step into, I'm a diva. I was trained as an opera singer. I love to be the center of attention, and I love to step on a stage and bring people joy. Now that's ego.
It's beautiful.
So if I completely eradicated the ego, would I necessarily then step into that persona of the show chick, the girl who loves to have all eyes on me? And is that wrong? I love to get on a stage and have everybody's attention just focused on me, baby. I love it.
And that's what you're supposed to be doing in that moment.
Exactly. But that's a part of my ego. And if I didn't embrace that, then I may never step on the stage. And whatever I choose to do at the time, if I'm doing light language and helping to elevate people's vibration and frequency and bringing codes that help them to really connect more to spirit and who they truly are and empower them, or if I'm singing opera and people are just enjoying the beautiful music that was written 200 or so years ago and I happen to be singing it at that time, or whatever it is that I'm doing, if we didn't have an ego, would that be what I chose to stood into at that time? Because that lights me up. And I don't think that's just spirit. I think that's ego. So,
Maybe you were born to do it, though.
Oh, I was absolutely born to do it. I was born to be on the stage without a shadow of a doubt. And I have fortunately come to the position where I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with wanting to be loved on when I step onto a stage. And letting go of like doing the light language used to terrify me because again, it was like, what's everybody going to think of this light language thing? But I found a way to just go, this is spirit song. This is spirit song. Enjoy it. Close your eyes. Soak it up. And sorry.
So this is just me being interested. Where do you feel that your your light language comes from? Like, is it from a realm, a void, from other beings, or
All the above.
all of the above? Okay.
It comes from source, and sometimes I've had people who are clairsentient who watch me work and say that they actually see different beings move into me, and that's where I tend to be multilingual, so it can change.
Yeah.
It can change tone. It can change. Sometimes it's really loud and powerful and commanding, and sometimes it's just really soft and lilting. But what I focus on now is just the goddess of light. Just whatever needs to come through, just let me be the vessel that brings through whatever is necessary for these people or the world right now or whatever it might be. So I don't have any strong sense of a specific source. I just see it all as source, wherever it might come from, whatever light being might be bringing the light language. I just see it all as source. So yeah.
And Margarita, I see that there's 3 minutes until you start your beautiful light language I want to say offering or process. And so I would love to just acknowledge you and all of the light that you brought to this conversation and to the central stage. And thank you for moving out through the resistance and allowing yourself to be in a space that this can move through you and uplift the whole planet for you're a beautiful vessel to transform other people's vessels. So I just want to honor you for choosing to allow yourself to be free enough to allow it to come through, because I know for myself it's a process, and I'm grateful that you've chosen to go there.
Thank you. And thank you so much for this opportunity to share the light on this stage. So I will hand it over to you, Ratna and Rochelle. It's been lovely to be on the stage. And I will see you a little bit later before we close.
Beautiful. Looking forward to it. So if everyone wants to follow Margarita, she's in the Earth Elders group, and she'll be doing her process in that space. While she's going across, I'm just putting down the bottom that you can actually also find all of the events from all of the hosts at www.globalunityfestival.org/events, or you can go and find each individual presenter. It's at the same web address, but the / is host, and you can look at all the presenters' past offerings to the space, as well as what's currently happening right now, or you can go into the presenter space and actually put a notification of when they're coming forward and what they'll be doing in the future, so that once they update their profile of when they're next having an event, you'll be able to see that straight away as well. So it's kind of a bit like, I see it rather as like spiritual Netflix. If you really like somebody, you can go back and go through all of the processes they've done before, and I feel like it'd be much more uplifting for your soul than watching Netflix. And but it's a beautiful space. So if you want to learn anything else about the Global Unity Festival, the science behind it all is there, as well as all of our different hosts and information on how you can contact each and every one of them. So if you're watching now and would love to tune into Margarita's light language, we invite you into the Earth Elders Facebook group or to the events page on Global Unity to click on the link in that page, and it will take you to her live transmission. I'm going to take a breath now. So, Radha, I'd love to hear about your process and how what came through you as you were sharing.
When I was doing my talk and that
event.
Yeah. Okay. I think, I've heard a lot of funny things over the years about transforming and what have you, transforming, ascension, all of those sort of things. And some of them paying thousands to go and be part of a big crowd that waves their arms in the air, and there's someone in the front being very charismatic. And I don't know that I've always seen good things happen for all the people that go. So I really feel very strongly to give things for people they can use in their everyday life. Because people without money deserve things as much as those who can afford megabucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, really, I gave a little technique. It was from Heart Math, and I found very powerful during a short time, a hard time in my life. The main thing that it did do, aside from making me feel better, was it made me realize the impact that my life was having on me. And it gave me the strength to just do a swear word and walk out, basically. Yeah. Well, it wasn't quite like that. I plotted and planned it quietly for a while. But and the thing is, I really encourage anyone who's interested to look up Heart Math. It's for the emotional quotient, or
Beautiful.
EQ rather than intellectual quotient. Yeah. Because they have some really good everyday things that you can do in it. And the thing is, they found that their simplest technique, it bumped up the hormone level of the major hormone in the body, the one that is tons of it, and that in turn bumps up the level of the other ones. And in that way, it makes us feel better. And what particularly fascinated me as a healer was that, we have our aura. And there's so much in it. But it almost seems like when they did pictures of it, it almost seemed like the heart had its own aura within the aura. It was massive. And I get off on that. I really do.
Yeah.
And I really, in my talk, I just wanted people to feel better about themselves. I wanted them to know that, because it was about transformation, if you're feeling useless, your life's not good, those are the things that have happened to you or are happening. They're not the essence of whom you are. You'll find the stuff around you is not. So, like when we're particularly children who've been deeply traumatized, every time they see something in the frontal lobes, they're seeing it through that. And it's going to create a terrible loop in the brain over and over and over and over again. And healing is a really good thing, like particularly DNA healing.
Yeah.
Trauma is a DNA thing.
Yeah.
So, I wanted people to know they're not that. I really did.
It's such a beautiful thing that you've touched on too, because I feel like a lot of the time that people are led to their transformation journey is because of the trauma that they've had in their lives and them seeing it play out in their current life, and whether they're aware of the origins of the trauma, because a lot of the people that I work with around trauma, they're not even aware that that's why what's happening in their current moment is happening.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that to the table, because it is such a huge catalyst for change often for people and not necessarily at the time of trauma, but especially if they've had something as a child, that does have a knock-on effect for the rest of their life. And it cannot, sometimes a lot of my clients, it's not even their childhood might have been great, but they've been born into a lineage that has a lot of trauma in the lineage. And even though in this lifetime they don't have felt memory for it, they don't have an actual memory, their DNA has been passed down. And so it's encoded on the DNA. And so often they'll have extreme reactions to things and not know why. So I literally have typed Heart Math to look up later for myself, because and I love that you were just talking about the heart having its own aura, because the heart is, that knows the way, right? And we've sort of so often been taught to go up to our head to find all the right things and analyze everything. And that's very it's very left, it's a very other left brain is that analyzing, isn't it? So it's it's such a beautiful thing to bring to the table in this transformation process, because it is a great catalyst for recognizing when you get to make a shift in your life, when everything's feeling like it's coming down on you.
Well, when I started healing, I learned to heal through the chakras and hands-on. And on my second healing I did, a woman got brought in at the end of it, which I basically got almost carried in, and of course freaked out. My second client, and basically I had next to no training, and I told her to come back the next day, and I took something out of her that was generational, and I swear she walked out. She kicked her white canes aside and said, "I walk." And she came to see me some months later, driving a sports car. Now, this woman had been like a star athlete, right? And she said suddenly, overnight, she became crippled. And, that to me, I mean, I just accepted everything I saw. I knew nothing. But bad things happening, definitely, down through the DNA frequently. And, so I've done yoga for decades. The thing is, yoga is all about oneself in many ways. That was the part I found really, really hard. And I go to the Mara healing and, it's about DNA and whānau, family.
Yeah.
The iwi tribe.
Yeah.
The people. And that was like really great. So I actually very quickly started doing past life regression. And in complete faith, because I knew by the time it wasn't me that was doing, I was just the channeler. Because, that's what I thought. I thought we each had our own journeys, our own incarnations, and it was all about oneself. There's not all the answers, not at all. There's the DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, what happened with the Murray healing, I found that without meaning to, I morphed into it, even into being able to see the damaged DNA strands and repairing them. So when when you're doing something, you don't question it. You just go with what is put in front of you that you have to do, because it's not about you. But yeah, and because so you might carry something from one of your lineages, and I might from one of mine, and only one of my kids might.
Yeah.
In 2 generations, several of the kids. So we can't tell really. But yes, the DNA is so important.
Yeah. I feel like so the work that I do a lot of timeline work, and it's about going back to the root cause of whatever is creating the problem. And so it's very much like past life regression, except that we'll go back to whatever the root cause. And so I'll ask at the beginning if it was before, during, or after their birth. And so if they answer before, then I'm always asking whether it was passed down generationally, so it's in their DNA, or if it was past life, as in their soul has been in a different space. Because I feel like that's really important to touch on, because we're doing both, right? Our generation comes through and we have our generational things that gets passed to us. And even if we haven't lived that, there's definitely an experience of that echoed in our body. And we know this because if we take an organ out of somebody else and put it into somebody, there's hundreds of cases where the person will have memories of the other person that their organ was transplanted for. There's a big field of science around that. So it's like there's actually science to back these things up now. But we also have our soul. Like your soul's journey is a different journey as well. It's lives that it's lived. It's not necessarily going to be in a linear fashion. It can be. It can go with your DNA, but it can be that your soul was in a different line last time, a different line of DNA. It can be that your soul was a dog last time, or a lion, or a piece of grass. Like it's not it's not as logical as we try and make it. And it's so interesting being in that field and witnessing people all the time and where it takes them, and our logical mind wants to figure it out. And so I'll often say to people, like, it won't necessarily make sense to you, and just go with it, and it will at the end of it by the time you've gone through that process. But it's such an interesting thing how we get placed on this in this moment in our bodies with so much pre stuff. I'm going to say just stuff that's there, that we also then have our own life experience and all our thoughts that happen through this lifetime. But it's amazing how often that's how my whole that's how my whole spiritual journey really started, was because when I was I was actually at a counseling session, and the lady was walking me through this breathing thing, and I had a very felt sense of all of these Indigenous people surrounding me. And then I could see all of this red and orange, and I was just like, I didn't even want to share it with her, because I was like, I don't even know what the hell is going on. But they've obviously all they've all, I'm like tingling. My whole body is like, yes, we're here right now. I'm all tingly. But it was that like, I don't have any conscious memory for that. But that was definitely an experience I had that kind of started me on that. I'm going to go and look into this. Like, I'm going to go and look into somebody who has done this sort of work and knows what they're talking about, to be able to explain to me what the hell happened to me during that process. But that was a real awakening for me.
And did you find somebody?
I did. Yeah. And it's very interesting, because in that, she was actually she's a Reiki master, and I ended up doing my Reiki mastership through her over, a long period of time. Miriam Brewer, she's an amazing human. And when I went into her, she when I called her and was actually speaking to her about it, she was saying there's an Aboriginal woman here with me, and I hadn't even told her the story. And I was like, okay, yeah, there's something here that's, and from my mind right now, in my mind at that time, I was not, like, I was so skeptical of anything spiritual. Like, I was figuring everything else out by my mind. So I was just like floored, because how would she even know? And it made me start to open up my awareness of, like, okay, maybe there's some other things in this world.
Yeah. I mean, interesting about the orange and red, it's like the colour of Australia when you mix them.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Even that itself would have been the message.
Yeah. But it's, when I don't know how your experience was opening up, but especially for me, it wasn't I was worried about telling people about everything that was happening for me when everything was starting to open up, because it was like, this crazy stuff is happening that I'm seeing that other people are not seeing. And so it was a real journey. Like, it's been a real journey. And I think that's part of the beauty of the work that you do, and myself, where we're actually talking about it, to allow people to know that it's normal. It's a normal part of this awakening experience.
Absolutely. Look, well, I thought healers were stupid. I didn't know what it was. Mediums. And but weirdly, I knew as a tiny child I was going to be a healer with a bald head, dressed in rags, which of course was the Swami, dressed in rags, bald head, and healer, and I just accepted it. But I just walked into a room one day. Mum told me to go to a yoga class, and I said, "What's that?" She said, "I don't know, but you go to this one." And Mum was so intuitive. So I went, and I remember walking in through the doors, stopping and thinking, this is it for the rest of my life. I had no idea what it was. I was the worst student you could have, the most disruptive, all about me. But at the end of the year, I had a chakra awakening, and I didn't know what it was till years later. Because in those days, most people only knew what they read in books.
Yeah.
Books aren't always right, as you know. So, but I did know that from that point on, I was different. and it really caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Fine. But, you know, people close to me caused a lot of problems. So I didn't tell anyone because, you know, they thought I was stupid anyway. And then when I became a healer, that was just the backstabbing and the control and the public ridiculing was immense. But I just ignored it. Well, stab, stab, stab in the heart. But that's what it felt like. But I just kept going because I knew I was supposed to. And so with the healing, it wasn't like an awakening or anything. What happened was I was living up north. And, you know, at the time there was a recession and everyone was on a benefit and everyone was really poor. It was horrible. Woke up one morning and said to doubled over, saying to my flatmate, I've got this stabbing pains in my stomach. The last time happened, I had to have emergency surgery. He said, okay, I'm taking you to meet so-and-so. I thought, well, who's so-and-so? His name was Gregor, who I was going to meet. So he takes me, I walk in and Gregor looks up. Gregor must have been all of 20, if that. I said, oh, I've been waiting for you. And he started talking about this Indian man who was waiting to talk to me. And I'm like, hello? But I knew who it was. And he said, and, you know, you teach me about chakras and we're going to work together. And I'm like, yeah, right. So we did work together. I provided tools for the healers and he did the rest because, you know, and he kept trying to get me to do healing with him and I wouldn't. And then he started tricking me to come into the room when he was doing a healing because we ended up being flatmates a few years later. And my life was horrible. It went downhill so rapidly. I just didn't know how to cope. Once I went to see him and I was like this. You know, when you see a child turn around and do what they're refusing to do and they go,
yeah.
So, I think I'm supposed to be a healer. And he went, oh, God, he said, 3 years. It only took you 3 years. He gave me 2 lessons, got somebody else who gave me maybe 2. And said, oh, by the way, I'm going overseas. You're going to have my clients, and walked out. So, you know, what brought me to healing was that my life sucked.
Yeah.
But it changed. It quickly changed, even though I had to put up with, you know, the ridicule and all that. Just kept going.
Yeah. It's so beautiful that you spoke into this because I was talking to Margarita about that and how for me moving into that was these choices that I recognized that my life was not fun. I wasn't enjoying it. I was really down on myself and living my life so much for others, but it was chaotic around me because I wasn't owning this part of who I am. And so I was creating so much friction in my own world. And it was only that real darkness that kind of brought me to the healing journey. And I love that you mentioned this, like, I didn't know I was going to be doing it because I remember sitting down, it was like a series of events that led me to Reiki and energy healing. And I sat down in the room for this course, this Reiki 1 course. It was going over the weekend. And I sat down and recognized I had no idea what Reiki was. I had no idea how I got there. But it had just been this, like, it was only the day before that I messaged her and said, is there still a space for this weekend? Because this lady, Miriam, had said, you know, that she's got it on and I should come, that it would be great for me. And then I had the kids, like it was never going to happen. And it was just, my sister rang and said she could have one of the children for the day. And my husband said he was not working the other day. And I was like, oh, okay, well, actually there's this course this weekend I'd love to do. And so I literally sat down and like everything, like it was like source had moved, God had moved everything out of the way for me to be there. But I distinctly remember sitting down there and going, I have no idea what this is. Like, I've never had Reiki before. I don't know what energy healing is. Like, I didn't know why I was there. And I was like, this is divine intervention for sure, for sure, to me to be in that space. And I love that you experienced that with your, the person who was healing before, recognizing that you wouldn't have done it without him, being like, okay, I'm just going to go on holiday, and knew that you would take it, right? He just had that, he knew that you would do it. It's beautiful.
One of the loveliest things that ever happened in my life was through a Reiki master. And it was a guy, and he must have been maybe 30, early 30s. And I was in a hall. It was quite some years ago. I've not long been healing. I was in a hall, and no one would get a healing off me. No one. And this Reiki guy kept watching, because, of course, people were going to the Reiki people. There was a couple of them. And he said, oh, come give me a healing. And he sat down and he did this over his belly, because he had a nice belly. And nice beard, and he was jovial, And I closed my eyes and I stepped into his aura. I think I had a crystal in my hand, a crystal point. And I closed my eyes and I was engulfed in this love vibration from his heart chakra. And I don't know what happened. I knew I was moving with my eyes closed, and I suddenly came to and opened my eyes, and the entire hall was watching. I'd been dancing in his aura. Of course, being me, I was like, I didn't like to be out in front, so I quickly thanked him, and he was just grinning. He was amazing. I really wanted to get to know him like that, but he was so much younger than me that I thought, oh, that's not fair. Don't even be nice to him because of it. But nice in that way. I mean, don't be nice in that way, but be nice. It was the most powerful of any aura I have ever been in. And after that, there was a queue out the door of people arguing, fighting to get in line for me to do a healing on them. It was just hilarious. But for me, the special part was dancing in his aura, because he was seated, so everything was straight out. Yeah.
How powerful. What a powerful moment. And I love that, because it's like the different healing modalities too, in how powerful they are coming together.
Yes. I don't think that what I have to offer is for everybody at all. I know it's not. And I'm okay with that. When I first started, I wanted to heal the world, I don't think that's ego. I think that was more earnestness, a sincere desire to give. But, of course, it doesn't work like that, does it?
No, and it's not meant to, right? It's not meant to. That's the beautiful thing. And I think that's what I love. That's why I love working in this area, in this industry, and recognizing how unique. I feel like our soul has like an awakening process that it gets to go through, especially if somebody's watching this right now, like the Global Unity Festival, they're in a space of already opening up. And I feel like every person that I speak to who's in this area of I don't know, I want to say work, but it's not, like that doesn't really describe it, does it? But in this area of expertise, that everybody has a very unique and different story of how they got to a point where they're waking up that part of themselves. And I think that's the beauty of it, because right now I know for myself, like I went to Reiki, then I did some light language, and then I went and did some like NLP and timeline healing and all of that kind of more brainy but out there stuff, and then back into energy healing. But that's the journey that my soul needed to take to be able to get to where I am right now. And everybody has their own journey, and it's like and doing midi, like doing Māori healing and doing an Aboriginal healing where like they blow their soul into you, and that was phenomenal. But it was like I actually got to we get to go to the path, like whatever you're feeling drawn to, go and explore it, go try it on. And there's some healing modalities that I went to and it wasn't my cup of tea. Like I when I did sound healing at the very beginning, it didn't really do much for me. I did one a couple of weekends ago and I was like, oh my God, like but my soul wasn't ready for that sort of transmission yet. And it was just, it's like, it's such a beautiful process in that transformation process of coming back to yourself and finding more about you. It's like, go and try the things, go and try all the different things and see what works for you, because it's, I mean, mine started with hands-on healing as well. And now it's evolved. Like I'm doing healings for people who I've never met. They're online and they're having amazing experiences.
Wow.
Because that's where I'm at now. And I feel like the world is at that space now. But it's like, it's such a different, but I needed to do the hands-on to know that what I was seeing for that person opens up my psychic gifts, and it opened up my mediumship. But it wasn't, but it was because I had to do the hands-on things and know that that energy was not tied to that person and not my own, to be able to open that up. And so it's like, it's a real journey in that transformation space.
Absolutely. My God, I'm so impressed.
I love you. I love you right now. I love how you're just it's like there's this innocence and this like real like wow about you all the time, like this wonderment that I love. It's like so refreshing for the soul.
Thank you. So when you had your Indigenous healing, did that really affect you?
Yes. I felt like I was in a course in Adelaide it was another one of those moments that was like divine intervention. I was looking up Nankari healers. So they're Indigenous healers in the Adelaide area where they go traveling at nighttime and heal people in the night. They see things and they heal them at nighttime. And I had been I'd sort of known about them, and I had a book and I'd read all about it. And then I was in Adelaide for a course that was related to podiatry, and I was like, while I'm here, I'm just going to look it up. And they had an event that day, which was like an allied health event that was that they were going to be doing healings at. And I was like, oh my God, I need to drive there and just try and get a healing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I just know that I have to go and give it a go. And there was so much about my human self was like, no, I can't do that. Like, I can't. Like, who am I to go and just walk in there and ask for a healing?
Kind of like interesting how the humbleness came in then.
Yeah. The who am I comes up quite a lot for me in opening up and allowing things to come through. So I went into the healing, and it was a really interesting experience because there was lots of people in the room, and it's not what I was envisioning it to be. And it was very like
on tables or just sitting.
I was on a table to start, and then they got me sitting. And it was really interesting, just a really interesting process. It was so different. Like the massage is like really like they were pulling my soul back into the right space and then tapping it back in. So it was the healing is very rough. Like, it's not like it's like a massage and a lovely fluff experience. It was like I'm going to rip your thing and I'm going to bang it back into your heart. And then they got me to sit up and he blew his soul into my head, like in the back of my head. And I literally felt my whole body and then the whole room expand. And then I felt like I was almost going to faint, like that feeling. And then they're like, okay, next person. And I'm like, what? But I like literally floated for 2 days. I really had to ground myself to drive. Like, I walked back, I had to ground myself to drive. I'm talking about it, getting this kind of floaty sensation that's happening, and my hearing's kind of going. So it shifted a lot, and it was very interesting for me in terms of what I expected, and then the reality, and like just allowing my ego to kind of dissolve a little bit more. It was a really interesting space.
Wow.
Powerful. Powerful.
Oh, my God, yes. Yeah, I did hear that there was the travelling at night to. I didn't know it was to do the healing. I thought it was to find the things you needed for the healing, but that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
It's
bet
a,
there's people that read that and then just try it, but I think without the right intent, it's not the same.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
It's such an interesting journey. I'd love to hear how did you come back into the Maoridom space right now? Because
Oh, I was teaching yoga to this woman, and she said one day she came up after the class. It was just in a gym, and her partner was Maori, and she said, oh, no, she said that he and another Maori guy were going to be holding wananga, which workshops, teachings, and on the North Shore. And at that time, I couldn't go, but I knew I had to. And oh no, she was going to the last great tohunga. She was going to him. That's what it was. Her and her husband. And then she stopped going, and he kept going, and became a very close student. Then he and another man were asked to take wananga quite some distance away from me, and I was a working mum, and I was working my butt off, and I couldn't go. But I knew I had to. I knew I was supposed to. I could see the person I was supposed to meet in my mind's eye. And I knew what the reason was. I didn't know anything about healing. I knew nothing about nothing. So the years passed, and I kept thinking, I've got to do it, I've got to do it. I didn't know where they were. One day I was looking for a friend up in our local village, and I couldn't find her anywhere. I was going around anything that was open. It was in the evening, and I saw in the community centre a light was on. So I walked in, opened the door. This guy looked up and said, "Sit down." And I recognised him as the person I'd been supposed to meet.
wow.
Only, of course, he looked 100% different.
Yeah, of course.
And he said, "Someone give her a pencil and paper." So I got given it. Now, a lot of the teaching was in Te Reo Māori, which I couldn't speak, couldn't pronounce. Foreign. It's much better now here, though. It's a lot of words are mainstream now.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there frantically copying someone else's notes. And then he said something, and we were all to give our ideas on it. He went around the room, he came to me, he looked at me and said, "You're not, because you've just turned up." And I said, "Well," he said, "I've spent 30 years doing philosophy, so I think I can." So off I went. I didn't feel I was being egotistical. I just didn't want to get left out. And afterwards, he came up and he asked me to come back each week. And he said, "I want you to come to the healing." I was a bit miffed. I thought, "But I am a healer." But I went anyway. In fact, the whole wananga came up around me when he came. They all came, and I'm standing there because I was so shy I never spoke to anyone. I was very, very shy and a bit scared. And I had no idea what I was in for, but I went anyway.
Yeah.
And I got him to do healing on me for about 5 months. A few years later, once a week. And it was 2 things ancestrally. 2 things. And I really think it worked. I decided to, because the thing was, if one person could be healed, it has a flow over effect through the rest of the whānau who are carrying that DNA. So I basically did it for my whānau, for my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. That's what I did it for.
Yeah.
I want to see some things finished. Again, I didn't think I was being egotistical. I was actually just being quite humble. But I love the spirituality because, of course, it's gods and goddesses. It's right up my alley. And it all spoke to my heart. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And I started I'd spent donkey's years doing the yoga incantations, which have special names, so I'll just say incantations. And they didn't do it for me. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And I was very faithful to everything I was told to do. The Murray ones were instant. Or for me, they were instant.
Yeah.
So
What I love.
Sorry. Having said that, have had Indian clients in the clinic that I was working in. It was a koha or donation clinic. I would use a Hindu incantation, a spiritual one. Yep. Finished now.
It's beautiful. What I love is like we were just talking into it before, is like trying on different things, because it's I know for myself that the modalities that I've learned, and I've gone through and learnt them, it's like they were there, they were almost there, but they weren't quite it, you know? And it was like, and then it's like, go and learn the next thing and go and learn the next thing. And now it's like I create something that's bringing all of those things together. And it's actually about my own unique way of doing it, because I'm bringing all of that together. But it's beautiful that you mentioned that.
No, everything does come together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How it's meant to.
Yeah. And that's what I love the most. It's like we and even the parts of my life before that has an impact now of how I look at things, you know, as a podiatrist, and knowing how much, like, one of the things I do in podiatry, there's a bone in our body that when you put it back in the right spot, it literally tells your body where you are in space. And when you put that back in the right spot, it shifts everything in the whole body. Like, you'll be able to rotate your neck better. You'll be able to, your shoulder blades will be more aligned just by moving that one bone, and your alignment. And that's in your foot. It's called the talus, the bone. And it used to be called astragalus, which is like the position in space, the stars, right? The astra. And it's so interesting because my journey has very much been like the body part was very much a big part of my journey, and knowing how we store things in our body, and knowing, like, if I release something on the foot, it's going to affect the whole system. And then also I've gone into learning about, you know, NLP and how our mind works and how our mind creates all of these things. So I've done the mind part, and then with the Reiki and the energy, it's all about the spirituality side. And it's like all of those things come into what I do now. Is like when we address the whole human from all aspects, and know that if one of those areas, mind, body, or soul, is out of alignment, or they're not lining up with each other, then it's going to make a big impact in your life. There's going to create chaos. And then when we bring everything into alignment, that's when we find flow, and we bring it in with spirituality, right? We bring all of our spirituality through everything we do in our body and through everything we do in our mind, that it creates that flow and it creates that ease by having that alignment. But it's all of the things, like, you know, for yourself, it's having that. You have this amazing toolkit now where you have the Indian teachings and their mantras, and know how powerful and effective they are. And then you're also adding in the multi-dom and that real like the real whānau and the family and the lineage, and how everything's affected from a lineage perspective.
Yeah, I try not to mix up. If I'm going to do past life regression, I'll do the energy healing or miri. If I'm doing DNA, it's a bit more physical. I don't generally, but I will clean up things afterwards with an energy healing at the same, you know, straight afterwards.
Yeah.
Because each on their own is quite different.
Yeah. Powerful in different ways, right? Totally different ways to come to the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's really interesting for me in learning a lot of somatic stuff, like releasing things through the body. It's interesting for me now because my timeline therapy is very much about, it's all in the mind. But what I've noticed now is, because I've learned about somatics, is that people, when we go back in the timeline, they'll also have a body experience that releases it. But when we're going back in the DNA parts of the timeline. So it's a beautiful thing to be a part of, and seeing how all of the choices for myself to go on that journey of like learning for myself and then learning for others, because realizing how much it's transformed my life, how much I'm like, oh my God, the whole world needs to know that this is possible. Like the whole world needs to know that we don't have to sit in that space where we feel not ourselves and we feel overwhelmed and we feel like we're constantly angry or frustrated with the world, that there are things that help move us through. And I feel like that's the biggest thing. We get to teach people that there's so much available in terms of transformation. If one thing doesn't feel right, find another thing.
Well, I've often sent people to other people rather than I've often said, no, I'm the wrong person for you, because it's just a feeling, you know, like I think people deserve to have what's best for them rather than me saying, oh, I'm it. And
100%.
even if
I
I'm
think
working in a clinic and it doesn't feel right, you know, there's lots of tables, I won't do it. I'll lie and say I have to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
that's fabulous. I think it's such a big part of just knowing when it's not aligned. Like it's a beautiful that you recognize that and then allow another person who it is allowed to do that, to do the process instead.
Well, I'm not that great with the physical stuff, you know. I'm not as strong as physically as a lot of other people. They're much better than me. So for that reason, I wouldn't. And although I'd really love to be doing the haputangi, the natal stuff, I know that there are a lot of people that's their passion. Whereas I'm actually scared of pregnancy. I'm scared of doing the wrong thing. So I would always pass people on there.
Yeah. I think it's a powerful thing to know where you're at and what your genius zone is and stay in that lane. I feel that's one of my biggest learnings this last couple of years, of like recognizing where I'm not necessarily the best person in that area, or recognizing something that is an area that I'm not, that drains my energy to be in, or it just doesn't light me up, and then finding people who that particular skill does light them up and referring to them. It's such a win-win for everybody and the universe, you know, like it's a win for you because you're like, okay, this is not my genius zone, let me pass it on. It's a win for the person who's receiving because they're getting the person who actually gets lit up by it. And it's a win for the other practitioner as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think a lot of what's wrong in the world is that we try to do all the things instead of knowing what actually lights us up and doing that and outsourcing to other people the things that don't light us up.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with healing is that you do want to do everything for everybody, but you can't. And you're not always the best, as you said, not always the right person. It's just, yeah. Hey, and yeah, I'm also a bit funny about whom I let touch me. Yeah.
Me too.
A lesson.
And it's important though. It is important. You know, our energy is our most valuable resource. Our energy and our time. And so it is important to be discerning, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah. So I can see Claudia's just popped back in the stage. I'm going to invite her on as well. Let me bring her in. Hello, Claudia. Welcome back.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm so good.
I love the room itself that you're in has shifted and the light has totally changed on the other side of your process. And I love that you're literally like beaming right now, which is, of course, I expect nothing less.
so good. It was so much fun. Like
Yeah.
so much fun. And it was
Yeah.
because of those people who were on being a part of it that the process co-created itself. And I love that. It was so good. So yeah.
I love that, especially because it's like, you know, when you add more souls and more energy to an event, it shifts and changes it, right? We're talking about transformation, and then when you're adding your own essence, and there's different essences for each individual has their own energy, and when they add them all together, it creates its own kaleidoscope of whatever is going to be created.
Yes,
And I love that
exactly.
you just experienced it. And
Exactly.
yeah,
And kaleidoscope. I love kaleidoscopes because that's also what we talked about. Like, this is a kaleidoscope of, hang on, there we go, of like sort of a crystal grid that I've created. And so for me, kaleidoscopes are just everything because each of us are a color within the kaleidoscope, each of us. And it's actually through our own unique color that it creates a new form, a new picture within the kaleidoscope. So
what I
yes.
love too about the kaleidoscope is it's not only the different colors that are in it, it's also the way that you look through it,
It is.
right?
And I mean, how
You
much
can
fun was it as a kid just going, oh my gosh.
and we can completely transform the picture being made by the viewpoint that we take.
Exactly. And by making a micro adjustment, just go, shh, that's it. Micro adjustment. And then it completely changes. It completely transforms and gifts you another picture. Because, so I'll actually give you, okay, let me show you something I prepared earlier. So there, hang on, I've got to find the camera. That it's opposite, so it's very disconcerting. Now they are actually a kaleidoscope of the exact same grid, and yet I don't know which way to go, and yet they're different, right?
Yeah,
Quite
It's
different.
pretty cool.
I love
So
it.
there, I know. See?
They're very calming pictures.
They are. So yes, and each of them, like sort of, I use these are images that we were using as well. I'm always creating different things for my screensaver, so it was something that was there for a screensaver. But it's interesting at the moment. I've needed something on my screensaver. And perhaps it does link to transformation because it's just like I needed it to be moving. My screensaver actually needed to be moving. And so it's like, this is a PowerShell. And so I'm just going to hold this down.
Oh. Mm.
How cool.
Isn't that unreal? It's so
And
fun.
it's so interesting that we just literally spoke into how a different perspective shifts the same thing, and that's exactly what your screensaver is all about.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, because if Radner, I know you were speaking about the Maori culture. So the PowerShell came in because I was working with the most beautiful lady whose culture is from the Maori, and she's actually brought in the PowerShell to bring in the breath. And that is where the cocoon is actually in. Her name is Marama Gray. And yeah, and so for example, these holes, hang on, I know, there, the holes on the top there, see there, that's where the breath comes through and the breath comes in.
Oh, right.
I know, right? Is that not just beautiful? And so this image, I took a video of it at a beach just down the road here. It was a program I was doing at the time. This was last year. It's called the purification chamber, where it's actually taking a group of people through transformation so that they can come, they come in as individuals and they exit as one harmonized collective. And what they did was, I had them create a ceremony, which was a ceremony where each of them brought in their own medicine in order to create something that was completely transformational, for those experiencing it, but also for themselves, because they wouldn't have been able to do it just on their own. So there's, yeah.
Wow. It's so unusual.
Yeah. I love the unusual.
I'm fascinated that you've got the same colour or hues of the colour or tones of the colour, I don't know which, all behind you.
Yeah, see, like, the truth is, I actually dressed to match that. There's no, like, it didn't look like that. There is no coincidence. It didn't look like that today. It didn't look like that last night, and it needed to be that today. Like, it just had to. And Rochelle knows me. It's like, I need to change my room. Well, when I say I need to change my room, there's a whole list, there's a whole swag of things that comes behind that. But this, like, I had different images and paintings there. I had different ones there, but it was all these hues, the blue hues needed to come in very much so. And that, like, I guess the water.
What was really interesting, and I love how Claudia, you coming back in with this share is like bringing everything together. Because what was really interesting is early on, one of the comments was that the blues really resonated. That the blues behind you. What did she say? I'm trying to find the comment. Oh, here we go. I love that the light blue. I connect to that color as well. Was one of the comments from one of the people as you're going along. And I was saying, well, please go, if that's connecting with you, reach out to Claudia and say hi, because there's a reason. Nothing happens happenstance. It happens for a reason. And I love that you just came in and brought everything together in your screensaver that's been on your phone for however long, is the PowerShell, which is, the multi connection, and the breath chrysalis was exactly what you were just sharing when you were just talking.
Absolutely.
to.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course the light's pouring through, which is exactly
I
what's
know. It's just so beautiful here. I'm like, oh, hello.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what fascinates, Radna, I'm interested in what fascinates you with what I was sharing. Was it about the shell, or what was it?
Well, I'm mesmerised by the colours to begin with. When you show those mandalas or whatever it was you created, I was quite intrigued. But the PowerShell, definitely.
The PowerShell?
Yeah. The one that was in your right hand, actually, was that when you were moving it and the light was coming through, I thought it was just amazing. Little cracks of light.
It's beautiful.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's like we can really look at anything with new eyes. It's like, I didn't know when I originally took this PowerShell to the beach, I didn't know I was going to take a photo. I thought I was going to plonk it in the sand. I'm going to go, oh, the light's going to look nice. It's going to take a photo of that. And that's all I was like actually intending. But then I was like, oh, wow, the light's popping in.
Yeah. Was the light behind it when you took the photo?
No, that's the sun.
It was the sun, right?
I actually held it up to the sun. And so, and I was like, oh, wow, it's popping out. And I'm like, I know it's in my hand, and I'm looking at it, and I'm placing it there, but it's just like, that looks really cool. Oh, wow. I think, how can I catch and then there was the art of getting the phone in the right position to where my eyes were, like my eyes could see it, but then I needed for the phone to see what my eyes were seeing. That was a little bit of a different process.
I was interested in what people do. hear people's
Yeah.
talents. Always interesting.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that. Welcome back, Margarita, by the way. I love that you mentioned that, Ratna, because we were talking into that is like how everybody has their unique process of doing things. One of the things that I love about Claudia, which at the beginning when I met her, I was like, why does she do that? Is that she like when she was talking just then is her room that she shifts. And when she shifts her room, she's going through a transformation. But her way to process energy is actually moving things around. So when I first met her, and I don't have that process, like I don't do it like that. When I first met there and we sit down and then she's moving like bits of grid, I'm like, why is she doing that? And it took me a while to realize, oh, this is her way of processing energy. Whereas I do it in a totally different way. And I'm sure you, Ratna, do it in a totally different way. And Margarita, you would do it in a totally different way. And I love the uniqueness of every person and how when we all come together and create that kaleidoscope, but everybody can draw from different things, especially through this process, especially through the Global Unity Festival, how we have so many different presenters out there that have their own unique way of bringing that source energy through, whether it's through beautiful light language, whether it's through a beautiful process on coming back to the breath and owning the breath and using that to totally transform who you are, and whether it's with the healing and the heart math that you were doing, Ratna, it's all a journey. It's all a journey, and it's our transformation is so unique to yourself, and how it opens up is so unique. And it's about finding something that resonates with you in the now moment and knowing that that can shift, knowing that your soul, for me, my journey, like my soul needed like hands-on healing. And then we went into the more spiritual things. And then I went into the mind. And then I went into like more of a cultural thing. Like it needed the evolution of different types of healing to kind of create that transformation. And each one was a transformation in itself. But looking back on the journey, it's like, wow, like all of those parts were needed and necessary and all very different.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what I find really interesting, like sort of as I'm hearing you expressing your journey, and I'm personally very blessed to be very close to your journey. We've had like years and years and years of play, which is just very, very fabulous because we're literally around the corner from each other. Is that last year I actually, and I was reflecting on this because it's like I do move objects around. I create crystal grids. That's been my thing. In order to process, I move things around. Last year, my moving things around really more moved into puzzles. And I left all my crystals alone. I left all my crystals alone. I didn't touch my crystals. I didn't these selenite swords of light, which I've been using and journeying with for probably 8 years now, didn't touch them, did not touch them either. It was just like, no, puzzles. And in fact, I need to show you a puzzle because I saw it the other day. I then decided, and again, I processed through moving as what Rochelle did, but I needed to change up how I processed. I needed to do that also for me. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to challenge myself because I've been doing these puzzles and I was kind of thinking that I was pretty good. Like I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting these nutted. I'm getting these sorted. I was really good. So I'm like, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to get a puzzle that's a little bit more challenging. And then I found this one and it's really cool. How cool is that? Right? Is that not the best puzzle?
I haven't got the patience to do one of those.
So let me tell you what colour everything is. Let me show you the colour of everything.
Grey.
Grey.
Oh my gosh.
Different shades of grey. That's it.
Claudia,
Yes.
just listening to you and how you like to move things around in your space, and you've picked up a jigsaw that's, because the colours are also similar, you'd have to know which space to put them in. I'm wondering if you've got spatial intelligence.
My gosh, I love the sound of that. Yes, I completely understand what's in space, and that I've never heard those two words expressed together.
certain type of person.
Tell me more. Can you tell me? Oh,
Well, for example, a brilliant photographer that can just do it just like that, in the right moment, just like that. They can get
yeah.
it.
I get no, absolutely. I just
Oh, you
get
did
space.
it. Yes, with the
Yeah.
PowerShell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
just
just moved around. I look it up. You look up
I-
spatial intelligence
oh my
on
goodness, I really will.
Mr. Google. Yes, I think you have. And
Mm.
but just listening to you and hearing that you're always changing your room around, to me, that's a nightmare. I don't have it.
Yeah.
That's right. We all have our own spaces. And I think
Yeah.
one of the reasons as well that you needed to bring out the grey puzzle, Claudia, was because Margarita and I spoke for quite some time about how our catalyst for change was noticing all the black. And for me, it was, I looked in my wardrobe and everything was black, brown, grey, or beige. And I was like, oh my God, like this is not who I am. And for Margarita, she was noticing everybody in the black and brown trench coats in the city. So we had a big half an hour conversation about that, which is why you needed to bring out the very grey puzzle right now, and seeing how the puzzle pieces of this whole central stage has all been brought together in this beautiful transformation event that we have all co-created together.
I wear black. Head to toe. Black is the new black.
Yeah, well, see that really interesting thing is the other thing that I did last year, where I said I needed to step away from all of my crystals and all things like that. And I rarely spent time in this room except for when on client calls or running group sessions and things like that. Whereas previously I invested a lot of my time in this room, but I also my hair ended up being natural. I was like, we were in 6 months lockdown last year. I was cutting my hair over the toilet bowl, which is, I know it's a very interesting like sort of view and vision to have. But like I needed my hair to be absolutely natural. There needed to be nothing in it. I've literally only just changed the color and actually brought it back to, because I was always, even in corporate, I was hot pink. I was bright. I was all of these colors behind me. I was like I was the colors of the rainbow.
I'd love to.
Yet, I needed the opposite.
I'm just gonna ask Margarita, because looking at the facial, she has. Why else did Claudia just have to say that to you? To say that right now?
Oh, it's funny because I've never been drawn to color my hair ever. And I just recently, there was a show that we watch. I watch very little television, but we stream this show that is The Doghouse, and it started in the UK, and it's all about dogs getting adopted and then finding the perfect family and matching them up. And it's really cool. I cry at every show because I love dogs, obviously. But this particular girl in the Australian version has this hairdo that it's quite short, but the top part is just blue and orange and purple and various shades. And I just went, oh my God, I really want that color in my hair. Thing is, when I went to my hairdresser, she quietly said to people we're all friends, and she quietly said, that's really not Margarita. I don't want to do it. And then I sort of asked her and I said, oh, I have to bleach my hair for that, don't I? She went, yes, you do. And I went, yeah, I'm not doing it. But yeah, but it was just interesting that you said that, because I'm thinking, yeah, I felt drawn to do that, but I'm just too conservative.
Well, there are other ways you can do it. So I'm just going to make something up here with what I've got here right now. And I've got a scarf here. And all it is you can actually then bring that color in a wildly different way. And I'm literally just doing this here right now.
Oh, I love it. I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, gorgeous.
And there you have the color.
Wow, that's gorgeous.
This is something I prepared earlier.
For myself, I recognize that Margarita was talking about when she was in corporate and she decided to all of a sudden start wearing very colorful clothing. And so I love that this whole last, short period of time we've all come together, that everything that has been happening is like tying all of the puzzle pieces of the central stage experience that I've had with each and every one of you, and how it's actually tied everything in, because you haven't seen each other's talks, so I can. It's like, oh my god, like this is why we're talking about that. This is why we're talking about that, which I think is a beautiful. And even the doghouse, when you were talking about that, I was like, of course, because we spoke about pitbull coaching, right? So of course you would just happen to mention that right now, because it's a great journey on where we've been through the whole process.
Absolutely.
Look,
And the fact that
I think if you want to get a dog, that's the easiest way to transform yourself. Get a dog, experience love. Sorry.
They are so amazing to have in your life. We've got 2 of them. There are times where we've had 4 of them over the last 20 years at once. But yes, and I wanted to come back to that, Rochelle, and say I see that it's also about how do you wish to colour your life. So
That's a great question.
It's like you can do it through your hair, you can do it through your clothes, you can do it through artwork, you can do it through music. How do you want to color your world? And I finished off my light language just 20 minutes ago saying that when you step into that multi-dimensional being that is you, then there are an infinite number of different versions of you within that multidimensional being. So you can choose at any time how to express that in the world. You don't have to be the same person every minute of every day. And you can express yourself. So, and a great way to say that is what color are you going to show up as today? Are you going to show up as a rainbow? Are you going to show up as black, minimalistic, quiet, reserved? Are you going to show up as bright pink? Are you going to, and I love the scarf because it's like, I don't have to color my hair the rainbow. I could have 20 scarves and I could color my hair a different color every single day with the 20 scarves. It's like you get to be whatever color you want, whatever flavor you want. Yeah. Choose what brings you joy in that now moment and just be that.
What I love so much about that, Margarita, is that I looked up the meaning of transformation before I started, and it was a complete change in the appearance or character of something or someone, especially so that that thing or person is improved. And I love that is all coming together right now in this moment of us being able to choose that transformational journey and choose the color that we want to be, choose the modality that we want to explore, choose the parts of ourselves that we wish to express. And I love that you so succinctly put that together. And of course, because that and noting that it's for the bettering of the individual. And transformation can happen in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't necessarily have to be for the better one. It's going to happen no matter what. We've already been through that. But it's how are you choosing to experience that transformation? Because whether we like it or not, things are shifting all the time in the world. And it's what we tune into and what we decide to create about the experience, about ourselves, that really shapes the way that we experience it. And so I'm excited for all of you who are in the process of transformation, as we all are in each and every moment. And I'm just really grateful to be able to experience this central stage with each and every one of these magical humans who have gone on their own transformational journeys, and in doing so, inspire others to go on their own and to go back within and find what's right for them. And it has been such an honor to co-create this experience with all of you magical humans. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the depths of my soul, for all that you've chosen to be in this world, because your light shines through. And I'm so grateful that other humans get to experience you in your light and light up some of their own in being able to witness your soul in its expansion, in its journey. And so thank you, gorgeous, gorgeous women, for bringing your own essence, your own color to the kaleidoscope, and for doing the amazing work that you do that shifts the world each and every time that you allow it to be seen and witnessed in the world.
Thank you so much, Rochelle. And I would like to return the blessing to yourself. And if we all also just tune in to, it was a month ago that we sat here, and how much has occurred within your own life, within your own cells, with your own experience, within your own world, within the world in the last 4 weeks. Now that's transformation. And Rochelle, you bring such a gift and such a blessing to the world. Your smile, your essence is just divine. You shine so brightly, and you are always my permission slip to be me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mwah.
I'd love us to all share a beautiful breath together before we close down this amazing first wave, knowing that the other waves continue. So if you're watching from Earth Elders or Global Unity, or you're on the Global Unity Festival platform, that you can join into the second wave, the Europe wave, and also the Americas wave if you're into staying up for 24 hours. Personally, I will not be at that one, but it is amazing. I'll watch the replay, and that's the joy of this platform, is that if any of the presenters here today stood out to you for whatever reason, they lit up something in your heart, whatever it is that made you feel drawn towards them, then you can jump on to the Festival Unity page. Let me just put up the email, the web address down here, and you can actually go through and find all the individual events. So all the events, so at the top of the page, there's events at the top to click on, or you can actually go to the www.globalunityfestival.org/hosts to find the hosts that are here today. You can go and have a look at their past offerings to the space. They're like the spiritual Netflix. You get to go and really better your soul, much more rewarding and uplifting than Netflix. But you can go and actually have a look at each and every person here's events that they've had on, and you go to their own host page, you just click on their image, and you can see what they've done in the past, what they have coming up, and actually put select them as somebody you want to be notified when they put their next event in, so that you can follow the journey and continue on and make sure that you meet them next time they are presenting. And it also has all the information on where you can find them in terms of their social media and their emails, where you can get in contact with them. These amazing women that I have the honor of sharing this space with are all phenomenal humans who love community connection. So if something lit you up, there's something very much about this world where we like to look at the things that hurt us and sort of dig in and find all those things in the spiritual world. We can find just as much by finding out what actually lights us up and running in that direction. So if somebody here, something they said just sparked an interest with you, or the way that they're being sparked, like, I want a piece of that, then go and connect with them. Go and see what they're doing in the world, because they're creating big things. And there's a reason that kind of sparked and that stood out for you. Let it permeate in your soul. Let it really transform your way of thinking, and go and follow them, because this is just a snippet of the magic that they bring to this world. And so without further ado, I would love to take a beautiful deep breath in with all of you amazing women. So breathing in, holding at the top, feeling that tension in the body with love, and blowing it out to each and every person who is watching, to each and every person in the world. knowing that our intention of blowing out that love creates huge ripples in the whole entire universe. And I just want to give so much thanks to everybody watching and co-creating this experience with us. It takes the people to present, but it takes the people to participate and watch as well, to make an event like this meaningful and beautiful. And so take all of these learnings, all of these moments out with you into the world, all of these processes that you've learned, and allow yourself to be transformed in this moment by each and every one of these learnings, these teachings, these processes, this beautiful uplifting of love that each and every one of these women outpour on you in this now moment. So with so much love,